Hey everyone, tonight we're doing something a little different. Something your childhood museum guide probably warned you about in a hushed, serious voice. You're going to be prey. Not metaphorically, not emotionally. Literally on the menu. Our relaxing topic for this evening is the Late Cretaceous, where the neighborhood watch is a 7-ton apex predator with binocular vision and a bite force that turns bones into confetti. Before we tiptoe into that prehistoric buffet line, take a quick second to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this kind of content, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe click on a fan for that soft whoosh of ancient wind, and get cozy. Imagine you've just woken up on a warm, river-braided plain about 68 million years ago. The air is thick, the plants are glossy, and something very large just exhaled across the back of your neck. Good luck. You come to on a bed of damp leaf litter under conifers, the air warm and sweet with resin. The ground beneath you is soft, springy, almost comfortable, like nature's memory foam, if memory foam also hosted beetles with questionable ethics. Your eyelids flutter open, and for one moment you think, wow, camping really does reset the nervous system. Then you realize there are no nylon tents, no crinkling sleeping bag, no cooler full of off-brand sparkling water. Just you, a forest, and a soundtrack suspiciously lacking in distant car noise or that one neighbor who coughs like he's trying to pass a demon. The light filtering through thick fronds above you feels prehistoric, like someone turned the saturation up and forgot to turn it back down. Everything is lush, glossy, and thriving in a way that feels a little arrogant. Ferns arch overhead with the smug confidence of plants that have survived 5 mass extinctions and would happily endure a 6th. Something with too many legs skitters past your hand, and you suppress the urge to negotiate a lease agreement with it. You inhale, deep, grounding, yogi-approved, and immediately receive notes of pine sap, damp soil, and something else. Something warm, musky, alive. It's the sort of smell that triggers ancient instincts buried somewhere between run and please let this be a friendly herbivore doing cardio. Your brain tries to categorize this place with modern logic. Is this a national park? Did I fall asleep during a documentary marathon and astral project? Did someone microdose me without my consent? The answer is simpler. You are somewhere so old it doesn't have Wi-Fi, antibiotics, or the understanding that your spine shouldn't be constantly clenched in a state of low-grade panic. You shift to sit up, and the leaf litter sighs around you. A few meters away, a dragonfly the size of your palm hovers with helicopter precision. It regards you not as a threat, but as a temporary landscaping feature. And honestly, that feels fair. You try to stretch, and every muscle protests in a tone that says, we did not subscribe to the being hunted tier of existence. A low, distant rumble reaches you. It's not thunder, too rhythmic, too heavy, like someone is rolling industrial-sized barrels through the woods. The sound travels through the soil before it even hits your ears, a polite geological introduction to panic. You pause mid-breath, your body freezing the way people do when they hear a strange noise in their house at 2 a.m., and suddenly remember they didn't check the closets. You peer between tree trunks. The forest doesn't move, but it listens. A bird calls. Not a cheerful chirp, but a sharp, urgent note, like it's filing an incident report with nature's HR department. The insects pause. Even the leaves seem to hold their breath. The breeze stiffens, carrying scents both earthy and electric. The world feels like it's waiting to see what you'll do, and you get the creeping suspicion the answer should be, not much. You run through a mental checklist as your heart tries to exit your body via your collarbone. Shelter? None. Shoes? Laughable. Snacks? Absolutely not, unless you count the emergency proteins hiding in your personal panic reserves. Your cell phone? You pat your pocket out of habit and discover a comforting absence. Even your smartwatch has abandoned you. Your pulse is now measured exclusively by sheer dread. A twig snaps somewhere behind you, crisp and intentional. Not the gentle crackle of settling forest debris. No, this is the kind of sound evolution built ears for. Your shoulders rise to your ears. Your breath becomes extremely optional. A shadow shifts across the forest floor, long and impossibly large, stretching over ferns like a moving continent. There's no roar yet. No dramatic Hollywood introduction. Just presence. Heavy, confident, utterly indifferent to your hopes and your dreams. And in that moment you understand something humbling. In this world, you are not a tourist. You are not an adventurer. You are a meat-flavored question mark. You lower yourself slowly back into the leaf bed, as if gravity is a polite suggestion you are eager to honor. Your only plan is to become part of the scenery, a quiet, moss-adjacent decoration. Welcome to the Cretaceous. You woke up on a world with teeth, and the forest has already noticed. Now breathe quietly, stay still, and let the foliage think you belong. Because right now, blending in is your only early morning productivity task. Pat your pockets, searching for the familiar rectangle of your phone, but all you find is the minimalist kit of an accidental late Cretaceous traveler. Lint, a surprising amount of optimism, and a single pebble. And let me tell you, it's not even a useful pebble. It's just a round, unimpressive little stone, the kind of emergency equipment that screams, "I believe in miracles and really, really bad planning." You flip it over, as if somewhere, somehow, it might magically transform into a multi-tool, or maybe just a granola bar. Spoiler alert, it does not. It remains a rock. A rock with the completely unbothered energy of someone who has never paid taxes. A small, traitorous part of your mind still thinks you might have your phone. It's a reflex, right? You tap your thigh again, because denial loves a second opinion. But the pocket remains cruelly, mockingly empty. No flashlight, no Google, no strange prehistoric animal near me search bar. Honestly, you'd even take 4% battery and 1 bar of 3G at this point. Instead, you now officially belong to the ancient and venerable species known as Homo, hope this tree has berries. Your brain, desperately clinging to any semblance of routine, attempts to launch Google Maps anyway. It's a futile, instinctive process, locating satellites. 0 found. Of course, the forest surrounding you hums with a life that's both beautiful and terrifying. And you are humbly reminded that here, navigation apps are called instinct and blind luck. Siri will not save you. If you yell, "Hey Google," the only answer you'll receive is from something that considers you the side dish. You stand up and do a quick pat-down again, a ritual of pure disappointment. Shirt, thin and suddenly woefully inadequate. Pants? Also inadequate, but at least they're pants, so that's a win. Shoes. Your toes wiggle, completely naked, already drafting a strongly worded complaint to HR. You let out a sigh and it comes out sounding like someone who has just realized they left their AirPods, in a future that's 68 million years away. Right, time to take stock of personal assets. Strength, debatable. Cardio. A polite maybe. Fight instincts, primarily emotional, not physical. Your knowledge of edible plants? Limited to grocery labels that say organic. And what about your intangible survival traits? Well, you've got anxiety, sarcasm, and a time-honored human tradition called winging it. Perfect. You are equipped with the exact same toolkit your ancestors had before they invented fire, but without the benefit of their stubborn, barefoot confidence. A humming insect loops around your head, and you swat the air uselessly. Good. Reflexes work. Though realistically, anything worth fearing out here will not be deterred by your frantic shoo. You grip your pebble because it's either a weapon or an emotional support object at this point. Maybe both. If a predator comes, you can either throw it or just clutch it as you whisper to yourself, "Well, I did my best." The sheer absurdity of the situation finally sinks in. Your daily dependence on technology has been brutally downgraded to, I hope I remember how to rub two sticks together. You consider the possibility of fire. Do you know how to make it? Maybe. Probably not. No, absolutely not. The last fire you made involved a stove and a lighter you borrowed while pretending you totally had your own. A soft breeze shifts through the towering, alien-looking trees, and the shadow of a pterosaur glides overhead, dramatic and leisurely. It's the Jurassic equivalent of watching someone fly first class. It lets out a shriek, like a prehistoric commuter arguing about boarding zones. You just look up and nod respectfully as if to say, "Yes, understandable. Carry on." The pebble, still warm in your hand, suddenly becomes precious. It's your only tool, your only friend. Wilson, but cheaper. You pinch the bridge of your nose, a universal gesture across all timelines for, how on earth did I get here? Survival, tip number 1, materializes in your panicked brain. Do not panic. Also, a very important follow-up. Do not shout, "I am merely a visitor," to the carnivores. They don't take reservations. You inhale slowly, exhale slowly, and ground yourself in the moment, which is easy because gravity is being aggressively helpful today. You straighten your posture, clutch your useless little rock, and whisper the sacred mantra of unprepared travelers everywhere, "Okay, okay, we can do this." You take a step forward, barefoot and humble, a lone modern human with empty pockets and dangerously inflated hope. No gadgets, no shortcuts, no emergency bag of almonds. Just you, and a pebble that will definitely, absolutely not stop a tea. Rex, welcome to analog mode. Hope your pride tastes good, because something out there is probably going to test that very, very soon. It's time for breakfast. Bad idea. Your stomach growls like a passive-aggressive roommate, a low rumble reminding you that eating is, technically, part of being alive. But here, in the lush, chlorophyll-drunk wilderness of the Late Cretaceous, brunch is less farm-to-table, and more spin the wheel and see whether you die. You're completely surrounded by greenery, towering cycads, sprawling ferns, and broadleafed shrubs glistening with morning moisture. And every single one of them looks like it could either nourish you or convert your internal organs into a formal complaint letter. You step carefully through the dense undergrowth, your eyes scanning desperately for something, anything, recognizable. A fruit, a nut, even a berry that doesn't look like it's auditioning for the role of fatal plot twist. You crouch near a fern and touch a frond gently as if plant etiquette actually matters when you're contemplating eating something that predates salads as a concept. The fern, of course, does not respond. Ferns have been here forever. They know a thing or two about patience. They've seen things. They've survived things. You, meanwhile, are currently debating whether licking a leaf counts as intelligent research or just last-ditch foolishness. Modern humans, we like to think we're so knowledgeable about nature, right? Mostly because we watch a lot of documentaries narrated by people with incredibly comforting British accents. I've seen exactly one wilderness show where someone ate plants in the wild, and my memory of it is currently offering such helpful advice as, if it looks poisonous, don't. Thanks, brain. Very useful. The problem is, out here, everything looks poisonous. Even the plants that seem friendly have a certain smug vibe to them, like they know you don't belong here and are one step away from calling the manager. Your stomach growls again, louder this time, more insistent. You consider eating a fern. Ferns seem harmless enough. They're leafy, green, and soft. They also contain compounds that can slowly, methodically, wreck your nervous system if you're not careful. Excellent. So, breakfast options so far: slow death, fast death, or water. Water wins by default. Speaking of water, you follow a faint trickling sound and find a shallow stream gliding over smooth pebbles. It sparkles in the sun like it's auditioning for an inspirational poster. You crouch down, cup your hands, and take a hesitant sip. It's cool, earthy, with a faint taste of minerals and ancient bacteria that you really, really hope won't decide to unionize inside you. Still, hydration achieved. Your stomach sighs in what feels like mild gratitude. Just then, a movement catches your eye. It's not a predator. That's a different, heavier kind of dread, but a small feathered dinosaur, maybe the size of a chicken, if chickens had fashion mentors and a whole lot of attitude. It pecks delicately at a cluster of dark berries on a nearby bush. A spark of hope flares inside you. If this little fluff raptor can eat them, maybe you can too. Then again, this creature's entire evolutionary niche is survive being chased by things the size of school buses. It probably has digestive superpowers that you definitely lack. Also, you remember that cats can eat geckos, and you are not a cat. Lesson logged. Do not take dietary advice from creatures armed with talons. So, you try sniffing leaves like a sommelier who has lost both their sense of smell and their dignity. A sweet scent drifts from a low shrub bearing small plum-like pods. They look edible, almost inviting. You lean closer. They're glossy, perfectly formed, and the exact color of every "do not eat this berry" you have ever seen in a survival guide thumbnail. Your internal monologue switches to a documentary host voice. And here we observe the modern human moments before making a fatal decision. You back away slowly. Not today, Darwin, not today. A dragonfly zips past your face, fat, iridescent, and annoyingly smug. It lands briefly on a leaf, flexing its wings like it just crushed a CrossFit workout. You swallow hard and consider the unthinkable. Protein. Bug protein. Nature's original jerky. You stretch a hand toward a large beetle sitting on a log, and it seems to stare back at you, its antennae twitching as if to say, "Really? We're doing this." You withdraw your hand. You may be starving, but you still have standards. For now. All right, new plan. Plan B. Fasting. Intermittent fasting is trendy, right? You're not starving. You are biohacking. Ancient, unwilling biohacking. Your ancestors survived entire seasons like this, you tell yourself. Of course, they also invented spears and community fire pits. You have a pebble and some very shaky optimism. You take another long drink from the stream, wipe your mouth, and sigh. Breakfast is officially postponed until further notice. It seems that today, your calories will have to arrive later in the form of adrenaline and fear. And with that thought, you continue deeper into the green labyrinth. Hungry, humbled, and hyper-aware that in this world, even the plants seem to have lawyers. Your stomach grumbles again, a final, pitiful protest. You whisper back to it, "Yeah, I know, we'll eat later. Hopefully, us still being alive." Modern fabrics? Cancelled. Today's look is, well, let's call it camouflage, but make it swamp. You're standing barefoot in this dense, ancient greenery, feeling like you completely missed the memo for the world's oldest survival challenge. The air is thick, hugging you with the humid insistence of a sauna that's apparently run by mosquitoes. Fashion here isn't about style. It's about not being mistaken for breakfast. And right now, you look like an all-you-can-eat buffet item clearly labeled soft and panics easily. So, what's the plan? What's your new textile? Mud. That's right. You scoop up a handful of cool riverbank sludge. It's damp, grainy, and smells slightly suspicious. You smear it down your arms, and it instantly sucks the warmth from your skin. The scent is pure nostalgia from the last time humans hadn't invented soap. You start dabbing the mud on your cheeks like a warrior preparing for battle, except your battle cry is more of a quiet plea. "Please don't notice me, horrifying apex overlord." You drizzle more mud along your calves, your stomach, basically anywhere your skin glints in the dappled light. You are now, officially, a beige nightmare. But it's strategic. The mud dulls your scent, your shine, and most importantly, your vulnerability to the Cretaceous equivalent of someone yelling, "Free samples." Time for accessories. Obviously, you grab some leaves. Large ones, broad like nature's floppy hats, perfect for both shade and some existential fashion commentary. You tuck a particularly dramatic fern frond behind your ear. It immediately flops over your face like a depressed houseplant. You try to readjust it. It flops again. Fine. You'll just wear it like someone who has completely surrendered the very concept of dignity. Next up, shoulder coverage. You attempt to weave some vines and palm-like fronds into something that vaguely resembles a cape. It doesn't fit. It certainly doesn't flatter. It mostly just makes you look like a malfunctioning salad. But here, function matters way more than couture. You're not walking a runway. You're trying to avoid becoming part of someone else's digestive tract. Suddenly, a buzzing insect lands on your forearm. It takes one look at your mud and plant ensemble and flies off, seemingly offended. Hey, good. The look is working. You are repulsive to at least one life form on this planet. That's a win. You scan the forest around you. Everything here wears camouflage with this casual, infuriating arrogance. Feathers mottled like dappled sunlight, scales patterned like shadows on bark, hides the color of wet earth. None of them are even trying. Evolution just handed them these perfect outfits that scream, "You can't see me, and if you do, it will end poorly for you." Meanwhile, you're being held together by mud, hope, and a few flimsy fern stems. You try to walk. A twig immediately catches in your improvised cape. You wrench yourself free and pretend it was a deliberate, tactical maneuver. Another step. Leaves rustle nearby. You freeze. Stillness. Stillness is your new runway walk, slow, deliberate, and elegant in a "please don't notice my delicious bones" kind of way. There's another rustle to your left. Your head snaps around. Something feathered darts across the path. It's fast, graceful, with tiny arms tucked tight against its body. It doesn't even look at you. It doesn't need to. It has already assessed you as completely irrelevant, and that is fantastic. Irrelevant is safe. Irrelevant means not worth eating or fighting. You aspire to irrelevance. It's your new life goal. You glance down at yourself. You're streaked with mud, draped in leaves, glowing with sweat, and covered in mosquito bites. You look like an artisan cave sculpture, handcrafted by someone who had never actually seen a human but had one described to them based on rumors and moss. You have to keep reminding yourself this is a strategy, not public humiliation. Blending in equals surviving. And surviving equals living long enough to maybe find a berry that won't liquefy your liver. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. You take a deep breath. The mud on your skin feels cool. A leaf tickles your neck. A little voice in your head whispers, "If Paris had fallen into a swamp, this would have been the look." A sudden breeze lifts your leafy shoulder covering, revealing a patch of bare skin. Panic. You slap on more mud. Better. You smell earthy now, like compost but with distinct undertones of anxiety. If a predator gets close, maybe they'll just see a moving shrub, or smell dirt and confusion, or at least hesitate long enough for you to make an executive sprinting decision in the opposite direction. For the finishing touch, you pick up a long frond and use it as a handheld fan. Not because it helps much with the heat, but it does flutter dramatically, which feels strangely reassuring. Let's be honest, somewhere deep inside, even when you're in a death-filled prehistoric jungle, you still want an accessory. Congratulations! Your outfit won't win any fashion awards, but it might just save your life. You are now a limited edition blend of human, mud, and sheer panic. Haute couture is gone. Haute camouflage has arrived. And until humans invent Gore-Tex, you're stuck walking the earth dressed like nature's unpaid intern. Thanks for joining me on this fashionable survival journey. You follow a side channel, where the sand squeaks underfoot. Dragonflies patrol like tiny neon bouncers. The air here feels heavier, thicker, almost like the humidity is unionized and is demanding better working conditions. Sunlight glints off shallow ripples and the scene is almost peaceful, if you can just ignore that primal voice in your head whispering, "Water is where the teeth go." Still, thirst wins arguments that fear only contributes to. You slow your steps, rolling your weight forward onto the balls of your feet, like a cautious cat who has never once landed gracefully in its entire life. Every single movement becomes deliberate, a choreography of silence. You're not just walking anymore. You're applying for residency in the church of "Please don't notice me." The river splits here, fanning out into these braided channels that shimmer like silver ribbons through the emerald brush. It's pretty, deceptively pretty, prettier than your decision-making level pretty. Your eyes track the mud near the bank. It's soft, uneven, punctured with holes and grooves. Some are dainty like tiny claws. Others are much larger, heavier. The kind of footprint that says, "I eat things that daydream." It's fine. Everything is fine. Ignorance, after all, is just hydration-adjacent confidence. You crouch by the shallowest edge of a narrow stream. Clear water dances over quartz-bright sand, carrying with it the faint, earthy scent of long-forgotten worlds and that one specific microbe that will absolutely ruin you if it gets the chance. You dip your hands in slowly, letting the cold shock your skin like a rude alarm clock. For a moment, it feels blissful, refreshing, grounding, the kind of purity that bottled water companies would weep over. You scoop up a sip, careful not to stir the sediment. It's crisp, clean enough, and gloriously wet. It's a small victory, but one you savor quietly, because joy out here must be stealthy. When the wildlife around you believes you are prey, you do not laugh loudly at hydration. A twig snaps behind you. You freeze mid-sip, your posture betraying someone who has suddenly remembered every single warning they've ever heard about standing near water in the wilderness. Your spine turns into a radio antenna tuned to Incoming Danger FM. Your ears sharpen, hunting for information. But all you hear is the steady hum of insects and the quiet, slurping sound of your heartbeat trying to backflip out of your chest. You slowly, carefully, turn your head. Nothing. Just rustling ferns and sunlight drizzling through the branches. It could be wind. It could also be a creature doing push-ups before hunting you. You sip again, slowly, like someone pretending this is a spa retreat and not a prehistoric death lottery. A plop echoes from upriver, heavy, wet, final. Something just slid into the water, something that moves with confidence and buoyancy. You squint at the gentle ripples expanding toward you. Most creatures that slip silently into water are either graceful swimmers or very patient ambushers. Both are problematic. You take 2 slow backward steps, your feet barely lifting, just sliding across the sand so you don't lose your footing or your dignity. If there is a crocodile-like thing in this river, you really don't want to be the protagonist of a nature documentary titled "Human Tries Nature, Nature Tries Human." Another sound, a quiet exhale, deep and resonant, like something large just checked its schedule and penciled you in for possible snack. You swallow, both literally and emotionally, and retreat toward a cluster of reeds. The dragonflies buzz again, resuming their aerial patrol like nothing happened, which, frankly, feels insulting of them. You weigh your options. Stay here and drink more? Tempt fate and fill your imaginary prehistoric hydro flask? Or accept that hydration is nice, but being alive tomorrow is nicer? Yeah, we're going with option C. You wipe your damp hands on your thigh, smear a fresh streak of mud, and back away from the water. The motion is smooth, controlled, a choreography of survival. Your footsteps join the whispers of the marsh, and the stream goes on being beautiful, dangerous, and indifferent. You don't run. Running here screams panic. Running here might splash. Running here is the meal bell. Instead, you glide away into the shadows of the trees. Your breathing evens out. Your senses stretch ahead. You've won again. A small win, but in this world, small wins are currency. Hydration, acquired. Limbs, still attached. Confidence, fragile but present. You whispered to yourself, "Water found, me not drowned." That's respectable. And somewhere behind you, the river quietly smiles, the slow smile of something ancient, patient, and always hungry, as you melt back into the foliage, still learning how to exist without becoming lunch. You're standing at the edge of a muddy bank, and it's telling you stories. It's like a community bulletin board, but instead of bake sales and lost dogs, the headlines are a bit more intense. Things like danger, danger next to more danger, and here be things that would consider you a crunchy, inconvenient surprise. Before you, etched into the soft earth, are three-toed footprints the size of dinner plates. They're heading downstream. You crouch low, your heart doing a nervous little tap dance against your ribs. You trace the outline of one massive print with a trembling hand. Each toe ends in a deep divot that practically screams industrial shredding capability. The depth of the track tells a story, too. This wasn't some casual wanderer strolling by. No, something heavy passed here, something with intention. The mud remembers. And right now, the mud is trying to whisper, "Hey, you, if you value your limbs, maybe turn around." But you can't. Curiosity is a powerful force. More importantly, you need this information. Your eyes shift to the smaller tracks. They zigzag across the bigger ones like chaotic gossip. Three toes again, but daintier, pointier. Think of them as the prehistoric equivalent of sleek, high-performance running shoes. They aren't frantic, just energetic, confident, maybe even a little rude. You can almost imagine them, a couple of feathered juveniles gossiping as they go. Did you see that new herd of herbivores? Oh my gosh, the horns on them, so aggressively chic. They feel like opportunists waiting for someone else to do the hard work. And then, there's the third sign, the belly drag. It's long, wide, and sinister in that special way only something that slithers without legs can be. The impression left behind looks like someone dragged a giant, grumpy log through the mud. It's the kind of track that politely informs you, this thing has no legs and it still moves faster than you. You lean in for a closer look, then immediately regret it. Whatever made this mark didn't hug trees. It didn't nibble on ferns. It made the ground apologize as it passed. Your survival instinct is buzzing, a clear signal. Observe, then retreat. But your ego is buzzing too, flickering like a broken light bulb between "I'm brave" and "I am, statistically speaking, a snack." You straighten up slowly, your eyes sweeping the tree line. The world has gone silent. Still, it's the kind of quiet where you feel like every leaf is holding on to some terrible secret it refuses to share. Slowly, the gentle thrum of insects returns, as if nature is easing back into conversation after someone dropped a glass. A low bird call echoes from deeper in the forest, short, sharp. It's the prehistoric equivalent of someone clearing their throat as a warning. You swallow hard and take one careful step back, your heel sinking into the soft mud, and then you feel it. The ground trembles. It's faint, more of a vibration than a sound, but it's real. It's the kind of subtle quiver that travels up your legs and into your soul like a calendar reminder titled, "Run, soon." Your breath catches in your throat. You freeze so completely you could be a still shot in a nature documentary. Somewhere out there, the earth is shifting under an immense weight. Something vast, intentional, and unhurried. Something you know you cannot outrun. You can only hope to outthink it. This is where the real work begins. This is the art of interpretation. The big footprints head downstream, so the largest creature moved that way. The smaller, zigzagging prints are everywhere, suggesting hunters or scavengers waiting for an opportunity. And the belly drag cuts across their path, an unpredictable threat. Its direction is unclear, and its personality is likely dramatic. You're not just reading tracks in the mud. You're gathering intel on a neighborhood where the HOA rules include things like, "Don't scream, it attracts unwanted attention," and "herbivores have the right of way," especially if they can toss you over a tree. You start breathing shallowly, as if taking in too much oxygen might somehow offend the delicate, deadly ecosystem around you. With the utmost care, you place your foot on a patch of exposed roots instead of the mud, minimizing your sound. Then another step, and another. The tremor comes again, closer this time. A subtle, deep percussion in the soil. Something enormous is moving with purpose, and with hunger. There is always hunger. A rustle to your right breaks the tension. A bird-like creature with sleek dark feathers and curious amber eyes peers at you from behind a thick tree trunk. It blinks once, twice, evaluating you. You hold completely still, trying to radiate an aura of, "I'm not here, and even if I am, I'm probably very stringy and unpleasant to eat." The creature lets out a snort, an inexplicably judgmental sound, and then darts away, disappearing back into the undergrowth. The forest exhales, and so do you. Orientation complete. You have the map, and it's crystal clear. Danger in all directions. There's definite danger to the south, and, honestly, yes, also to the north. East feels like a rumor, and west is just a suggestion at this point. The only truly safe direction seems to be up, but you are deeply, painfully aware that you can't live in the trees forever. Not yet, anyway. You slip back into the foliage, every single step measured and deliberate. There is no trail to follow. There are only choices, and each choice you make is either wise or final. As you retreat, moving as silently as a ghost, you whisper to yourself. It's not for courage, but for clarity. It's a mantra spoken by unprepared humans since the dawn of time. Left is life, right is death. Probably, maybe, we'll find out. Congratulations. You've just read the Prehistoric Neighborhood Watch pamphlet, and the key takeaway is simple. You do not own this land. You are merely borrowing it, and the landlord is very, very hungry. Let's talk about the landlord. Big, forward-facing eyes designed for pinpoint depth perception. A nose that turns a gentle breeze into a detailed biography of everything upwind. And a head engineered for what can only be described as snap and crunch economics. This is not a creature from one of those gentle nature documentaries where everyone coexists in a delicate balance. No, this is the Late Cretaceous most aggressively pro-landlord entity. And you, my friend, you did not sign the appropriate paperwork. There you are, crouching behind a low tangle of ferns, taking in the scene the way someone might analyze a gym contract. Slowly, nervously, and with a growing sense of horror. A Tyrannosaurus isn't just an apex predator. It's a walking, roaring thesis on why being squishy is a fundamentally stressful state of existence. Everything about it screams efficiency. Massive jaws powered by muscles so large they might have their own gravitational field. Those eyes, set forward to track movement with the precision of a surgeon. And legs, thick with the kind of power that doesn't say, "I chase." It says, "I arrive." You think back to the last lease you signed. Remember the part about quiet hours? The trash schedule? The clause about keeping pets under 20 pounds? Now, let's imagine the T-Rex version of that lease. Quiet hours? Never. Trash schedule? You are the trash. Pet policy? You are also the pet. Temporarily, of course. It lifts its head, and its nostrils flare, looking like it's scrolling through your entire browsing history using scent alone. If you were wearing deodorant, which, congratulations, you're not, this thing would know the brand, the ingredients, and your exact emotional state when you chose it at the store. It inhales again, and you could swear you feel your own pulse resonating inside its skull. You press yourself deeper into the foliage, trying with all your might to embody the emotional core of a fern. You cannot look like prey. You need to look like you're photosynthesizing. Relaxed, calm, rooted. You are, of course, none of these things. Your body is currently about 80% water and 20% very, very loud fear. The T-Rex shifts. The movement is slow, weighty. Grass and ferns flatten beneath feet so large they could double as serving platters for pizza. Its tail sweeps in a lazy, elegant arc behind it, a terrifying balancing rod, capable of knocking your skeleton clear into next week like an inconvenient lawn ornament. Its hide is a landscape of its own, textured and scarred, like living stone with a perpetually bad attitude. Flies orbit it respectfully, the way people stand quietly near celebrities in an airport lounge, not wanting to intrude but definitely wanting to be near the power. Then comes a sound as it exhales, a deep, rolling sigh, ancient and annoyed, as if the entire universe has inconvenienced it simply by existing. The forest reacts instantly. Insects go silent. The leaves stop rustling. Even the river seems to flow quieter, as if everything is collectively trying to avoid becoming a cautionary whisper. A thought crosses your mind, uninvited and frankly rude. Do not be crunchy. You instinctively tighten every muscle, which doesn't help at all and only makes you look like a malfunctioning statue. You start rehearsing fake identities in your head. Not food. Very hard to digest. Extremely loyal member of the predator union, please look elsewhere for non-union snacks. It takes a step closer. A single twig snaps beneath its foot, and the sound travels through you, not as noise, but as a deep vibration. The kind that crawls up your spine and registers as pure ancestral panic. Somewhere deep in your DNA, a tiny, furry ancestor is screaming, "Nope, absolutely not. Go back to climbing trees and inventing sandals. This is a bad idea." Then, mercifully, a rustle from beyond you. A small herd of hadrosaurs moving through the tall reeds, muttering to each other in anxious, duck-billed tones. The T-Rex's head tilts. The opportunity has shifted. Its pupils tighten like the aperture on a camera lens focusing on the new development. Without haste, because haste is for the insecure, it pivots. One enormous foot lifts. The earth seems to hold its breath. And then it goes, power contained, then released in a series of calculated, ground-shaking strides. It moves with an efficiency that says, "I don't chase snacks, I pursue meals." You exhale. You didn't even realize you were holding that breath. Or the last 7, for that matter. Your shoulders sag. Your legs are shaking uncontrollably. Slowly, the air begins to fill again with the familiar hum of insects and the whisper of leaves. A tiny lizard peeks out from under a leaf and seems to give you a look that says, "Congratulations on not dying. Bold strategy." You wipe what might be sweat, or just pure fear juice, from your brow, and only one conclusion becomes crystal clear. You don't live here. You merely exist here, on borrowed quiet. And the landlord doesn't knock. The landlord doesn't negotiate. The landlord checks on the property, and the tenants, whenever it wants. You swallow hard, readjust your mud and leaf camouflage, and whisper to absolutely no one. The rent is very, very high here. Wind matters. You lick a fingertip, hold it up, and test the breeze like a discount meteorologist trying to predict the apocalypse. It's not dignified, but neither is becoming a walking air freshener for a creature that considers you a 3-course meal. The breeze brushes your face, carrying the scent of damp earth, ripe vegetation, and the faint metallic tang of something that recently lost a very loud argument with physics. You nod solemnly, because pretending you understand wind direction feels incredibly empowering, especially when your last experience with wilderness navigation was successfully choosing the right exit at IKEA. In this world, odor is currency. Back in your old life, your scent routine involved deodorant sticks that promise things like Arctic breeze and mountain whisper. Out here, the only fragrance options are marinated human or feral swamp spirit. It's an easy choice, so you commit once again to the mud aesthetic. You scoop a handful from the ground, cool, gritty, wonderfully thick, and smear it under your jaw, behind your ears, across your collarbone. You work it into your hairline. Somewhere, An ancient hunter-gatherer ancestor is nodding in approval. Somewhere else, a modern dermatologist just fainted into their ficus plant. You pause to inhale. The sharp, mineral scent of wet soil, mixed with, yes, that's you. You smell like damp bark and high-functioning anxiety. Excellent. If some apex predator gets close, they'll just think, wow, that shrub has some serious unresolved issues. It's the perfect camouflage. Your stomach growls, unhelpfully loud, like a malfunctioning frog trying to start a motorcycle. You immediately glare down at your abdomen as if scolding a traitorous coworker in an open-plan office. Silence. Hunger, you've heard, makes humans smell more desperate. This may or may not be actual science, but it feels true, and feelings matter a great deal when you are perpetually flavor-adjacent. You need to smell like the landscape, not like a snack that's about to have a panic attack. You crouch and pluck a fragrant leaf from a low-hanging branch. It's herbal, sharp, almost minty. You rub it gently along your wrists and neck, like someone trying to DIY ancient cologne. The leaf juice stings slightly, which you choose to interpret as, it's working, rather than, please enjoy this delightful chemical rash later. You reach for another and drag it through your hair, feeling a wave of feral glamour wash over you. You are now a swamp druid, an earthy enigma, a salad with ambition. The breeze shifts. In a split second, you pivot, your instincts firing like someone just pulled a fire alarm in your DNA. Being downwind means predators smell you last. Being upwind means you're basically running a kiosk with a sign that says, free samples, limited time only. You crouch lower, body angled like a nervous meerkat on its third cup of coffee. The mud on your skin is drying now, tightening like nature's version of industrial-grade cling wrap. Is it moisturizing? Definitely not. Clarifying? For your survival odds, yes. Terrifying? Also, yes. It cracks as you move, tiny fissures forming a map of your fear across your skin. You are a living mosaic of dirt and determination. A gentle crackle somewhere behind you. It could be a foot on a dry twig. It could be a squirrel-adjacent dinosaur deeply offended by your fashion choices. You freeze. Stillness becomes your new religion. Every muscle locks. Even your breath becomes quieter, as if your lungs learned how to tiptoe. You find yourself thinking about modern life, scented body wash, lavender detergent, fabric softeners with names like Ocean Dawn and Summer Rain. Those things would be a death sentence here. In this era, the only acceptable fragrance profile is, I rolled through the underbrush and am fully prepared to do it again. Your deodorant is mud, your cologne is leaf juice, and your best-case scenario is smelling like a patch of moss that just had a very stressful quarterly meeting. You test the wind again, flicking moisture from your fingertip. It still works, barely, because evolution blessed you with instincts just competent enough to avoid immediate and spectacular doom. Good enough. You adjust your stance, continuing along a shallow game trail that smells of damp mulch and muted terror. This path wasn't made by you, but by countless creatures who also understood the life-saving importance of not being noticed. It feels sacred in a way. A low rumble echoes in the distance, not close, but meaningful. The forest reacts before you do. A flock of birds lifts from the canopy in a startled cloud. The constant buzz of insects goes silent. The very leaves on the trees seem to tremble in consensus. Something large is auditioning for the role of your problem. You instinctively tighten the frond shawl you've draped around your shoulders. It's partly for camouflage, partly for emotional support. It's your prehistoric security blanket. The wind picks up, becoming cool, steady, and, for now, loyal to your survival. You stay downstream of that sound, low to the ground, blending into a patch of shade so convincingly you could be mistaken for someone who just invented meditation. Another breath. Earthy, humid, ancient. You don't smell appetizing. You smell like you belong here. Or at least like you're trying very, very hard to. Your camouflage isn't perfect, But let's be honest, a T-Rex's dental plan probably has some gaps too, so you call it even. You start to think about the subtle orchestra of scents you're now a part of. The sweet decay of a fallen log, the peppery aroma of crushed ferns, the chalky smell of a dry riverbed nearby. You're not just wearing the forest, you're becoming a note in its song. This is the opposite of a perfume ad. This isn't about attraction, it's about complete and utter repulsion. You want a predator to sniff the air and think, ugh, another patch of boring, inedible foliage. I'll pass. You're aiming for the olfactory equivalent of being beige wallpaper. The distant rumble gets a little louder, a bass note that vibrates in your chest. You press yourself flatter against a large moss-covered rock, feeling its cool, solid presence against your back. You close your eyes for a moment, focusing on your breathing, slowing your heart rate. Panic has a scent, too, sharp and acidic, like burnt sugar. You can't afford it. You have to be the calmest, most boring part of this landscape. You have to be the rock you're leaning against. The wind shifts again, just a little, and you hold your breath, waiting. It carries a new scent toward you, musky, heavy, and undeniably predatory. It's close. Not looking at you close, but in the same zip code close. Your entire body is a coiled spring. You realize this is the essence of survival. It isn't about fighting, it's about not having to. It's about 1,000 tiny decisions made every second. Which way the wind is blowing, which leaf to rub on your skin, which shadow to melt into. It's a constant, exhausting, and deeply intimate dance with the environment. Quietly, very, very quietly, you nod to yourself and whisper the sacred creed of prehistoric stealth, smell like dirt, live another day. And for now, as the heavy footsteps fade into the distance, the wind seems to agree. The forest is alive. It's a constant hum, a fizzing sound like soda being poured, as millions of insects go about their business. In the distance, there's the steady, hushed sound of large herds moving through the brush. And every now and then, a sharp, percussive crack as a tail whips through the undergrowth. This is the soundtrack now. It's replaced the gentle whoosh of your white noise machine, the rumble of your neighbor's late-night laundry, and the familiar hum of a refrigerator stocked with snacks. Here, the ambient playlist was created by evolution, performed by things with claws and teeth, and mixed by whatever cosmic force decided that a little bit of constant anxiety is exactly what humans need to thrive. You take a slow, deep breath, letting the warm, humid air fill your lungs. The scent is lush, thick with the smell of tree sap, damp soil, and something faintly metallic. It's as if the world itself is made of breath and blood. You try to tune into the symphony of sounds, to interpret them the way you'd scan a group chat for tone. The insects? They're busy, which is good. The leaves? They're whispering in a language far older than human fear. And the wind? It feels like it's carrying secrets you'd probably rather not know. Suddenly, a sharp trill cuts through the air from somewhere overhead. It could be a bird, or perhaps a dinosaur pretending to be one. The sound echoes strangely, as if it's bouncing between different time periods. You tilt your head, listening intently, because sound is your only early warning system. The only things you have left are your ears, panic, and maybe a quick prayer. And right now, panic is warmed up and jogging in place, ready to take over. Then, a new layer of sound emerges. Deep, steady thumps, spaced far apart. It doesn't sound urgent or fast. It sounds confident, heavy. The vibrations travel through the ground and up into your bones, like someone gently tapping a spoon against your ribs. Your brain, ever so helpful, conjures a caption. Incoming landlord, now with surround sound. But you don't run. Running is loud. Panic is loud. Instead, you hunch lower, pressing yourself into the undergrowth until your entire existence feels like a whispered apology to the forest floor. As you become still, the forest chorus adjusts. the cicadas resume their rattling monologue. You hear the rustle of leaves as something small scurries past. A frog lets out a honk so unexpectedly rude that you'd laugh, if laughing wouldn't immediately advertise your location to every murder reptile within earshot. You start listening for patterns. You realize that in this world, loudness means something, but silence means something else entirely. Too much noise is alarming, but too little? That's the real signal. That's when prey knows to freeze. It makes you think about how incredibly noisy our modern world is. We're surrounded by air conditioners, engines, people blasting their lives on social media at uncomfortable volumes. But here, silence feels like someone putting a finger to their lips and whispering, "Don't. Breathe." It means something is out there, thinking, listening. A twig snaps in the distance. Not close, but not nearly far enough. The entire forest seems to pause, like a crowd holding its breath during a dramatic plot twist. You feel the change more than you see it. The subtle sway of foliage over there, the hush as branches settle over here. Something big is rearranging the environment to suit its mood. You swallow, trying to keep the click in your throat from making a sound. You can almost imagine sound waves rippling out from that creature, like sonar, mapping every tremor, every sign of life. A prehistoric Siri voice pops into your head. Are you sure you want to continue hearing? Part of you screams, "No." But another part knows that not knowing is so much worse. Time becomes elastic, stretched thin by adrenaline. A few seconds can feel like an eternity. You force yourself to focus on the smaller, closer noises. The crisp crunch of a beetle gnawing on bark, the soft drip of water from a piece of moss, your own heartbeat doing parkour against your ribs. Each tiny sound anchors you, a reminder that danger doesn't always announce itself in stereo. Sometimes it slinks in silently until the only sound left is your own final, whispered, "Oh no." Then another sound rolls through the trees. A distant call, low, mournful, like a warning sigh. It's not a T-Rex, but it's something else with strong opinions, and you really hope it stays that way. Predators talking to each other in deep, resonant notes is never comforting. It feels like you're living inside an ominous subwoofer. And in that moment, you realize something profound. Nature is broadcasting constantly. It's a flood of information, layered like an ancient Spotify playlist titled Forest Mood 68 million B CT Ultra Realistic Edition. To survive here, you don't just listen. You have to interpret. You have to understand the language. And as the insect buzz rises and falls, as the heavy footsteps fade into the distance, as the tense hush melts back into a living hum, you finally understand the biggest rule of this world. When the forest sings, you breathe. When the forest stops, you don't. Right now, it's singing again, a dusky, humid, and wonderfully alive sound. You let your shoulders loosen, just a fraction. You're not safe. You're never truly safe here. But for this moment, you are overlooked. And that's the closest thing to peace you're going to get. You slide forward, carefully, your movements quieter than your thoughts. The soundtrack continues, and you move with it, not as a predator, not as prey, but as a strange new instrument in this ancient orchestra, trying very, very hard not to play its final note. It's decision time. All the trees around here have these wide lower branches, bark like sandpaper, and sap that feels like it could glue you to yesterday. Down below, burrows offer cool air, but also the possibility of a current resident with teeth like a set of overdue chores. In the end, I choose a low fork in a tree, about 10 feet up. My knees are locked, my fingers are sticky, and I'm basically auditioning for the part of a leaf. I definitely didn't wake up this morning planning to become an honorary tree koala, but hey, here we are. My thighs are trembling. My fingers are clutching this rough bark like a desperate tax filer gripping receipts, and my hair is now fully integrated with a branch. Gravity waits below, patient and smug, like a gym trainer just watching me attempt the pull-up portion of life. Perched here in the fork, I try to breathe quietly, which is way harder than it sounds when your entire respiratory system has shifted into full-on wheeze mode. From this vantage point, I can see more of the clearing. The ferns are waving like an audience that can't decide if the performance is a comedy or a tragedy. Vines are coiled up like nature's own extension cords, and animal trails thread through the underbrush in a kind of nervous geometry. But then, below me, the leaf litter stirs. And not gently, not politely. It's like something large is out doing its weekly shopping, and I'm on the clearance rack. A low rustle. A branch sways. My mind immediately starts casting the possibilities. Could it be a pack of feathered hunters, gossiping like dramatic theater kids? Maybe a lone dromaeosaur on a power walk? Or, the worst-case scenario, a curious juvenile tyrannosaur treating the whole forest like its personal playground, and me like some weird new kind of tree fruit. Suddenly, a squirrel-sized dinosaur darts through the undergrowth, its tail straight, its body sleek. It pauses, it looks up. We make eye contact. And, for a second, there's this mutual moment of, I don't know, respect? Pity? It lets out a little chitter as if it's updating its internal spreadsheet. Human, in tree, foolish, no further interest. And just like that, it's gone. My calves start to cramp. I try to stretch one leg out and instantly regret it as the bark scrapes a tender spot on my inner knee. I grit my teeth and remind myself, I could be on the ground right now, browsing the fresh specials menu of the nearest predator. Trees might be uncomfortable, but digestion is definitely worse. My internal monologue turns into a series of inspirational posters. Survival. Sometimes it's just about not falling. Courage, when your only weapon is pretending you're part of the foliage. Calm. Screaming internally is still quiet enough, right? Then another sound. Heavier. Slower. The kind of step that isn't trying to be sneaky because it doesn't need to be. Something big passes just out of my line of sight, brushing the tops of the ferns as casually as someone scooting a houseplant aside. A deep grunt vibrates through the air, followed by the sharp snap of a branch that clearly did not apply for that job. I press my cheek against the rough bark, feeling every single groove, letting this tree become my emotional support structure. Maybe if I hug it tightly enough, the forest will just grandfather in my lease and allow me to remain alive. Minutes tick by, or maybe it's hours. Time stopped sending me notifications the moment I started climbing. Finally, the ground stills. The forest exhales. Whatever passed through has moved on, satisfied, distracted, or maybe just existentially bored. I dare to shift my weight slightly, just to confirm my legs still function. Big mistake. A cascade of dry bark flakes rains down, and I freeze again, my survival instinct completely overpowering any sense of dignity. A beetle climbs onto my wrist, pauses, decides I'm the worst log it has ever encountered, and promptly leaves. My reward for surviving this arboreal audition? A view. The sun is filtering through layers and layers of ancient green. Particles of dust drift through the air like tiny comets, and the hush of the wind whispers through the needles high above. Peace, fragile and fleeting, brushes against my skin. I take a deep breath, inhaling the smell of sap, earth, and just a hint of my own panic musk. It's time. I climb down, carefully, testing every foothold like it owes me money. Foot to bark, bark to ground, heart in my throat. At last, my toes meet the soil again, solid, damp, alive. I turn and whisper to the tree, because gratitude is free. Thanks for the emotional support, and the splinters. Then I slip back into the shadows, a slightly more humble animal than I was before. The lesson for today? Sometimes the bravest move you can make in the Cretaceous is doing absolutely nothing. 10 feet off the ground, shaking like a leaf that also pays rent in fear. Thank you so much for joining me on this tense little adventure. You spot it first as just a shape, something feathered and the size of a large dog, ghosting between the ancient tree trunks. Your first thought. Not my problem. Just stay tall, calm, and try not to look obviously edible. I've heard stories about packs, and I've heard arguments against packs. Frankly, I'd rather not end up on the agenda for either side of that debate. So, you just let it pass, like a rude thought you shouldn't have had. But this creature, it moves with this confident prance, the kind of swagger that says it has never, not once, lost a staring contest. Its tail stiffens for balance, the feathers at the tip twitching in these tiny micro-adjustments. It's like nature's version of a high-end gaming mouse, all precision and purpose. And the sound. Its sickle claws clicking quietly against the roots on the forest floor. It's sleek, streamlined, and just annoyingly moisturized for an animal that eats things with bones. Instantly, you adopt the classic camouflage behavior of someone who's read exactly one survival manual. You go stiff. Your posture is rigid, your breathing becomes shallow, and you lower your eyelids just enough to look like you're pretending to enjoy experimental jazz. You're trying to pull off the "I totally belong here" face. Cool, neutral, serene. Internally, of course, you are screaming the spiritual equivalent of an air raid siren. Then, the raptor-adjacent creature pauses. Its head turns towards you. A sharp, mechanical, almost surgical movement. Its eyes narrow. You can literally feel its assessment hit you like a spreadsheet, calculating your mass, the distance between you, and the overall weirdness factor. And its face, I swear, its face says, "You do not fit the vibe here." And your face, in turn, is trying its best to say, "Correct, and I deeply regret the inconvenience." It sniffs the air, and that's when you become acutely aware of your current fashion statement. Mud and leaf couture. You smell like wet compost and pure anxiety, which in all fairness is probably a historically accurate scent for most early mammals. The predator tilts its head even further. I swear it's judging my skincare routine. Then it chirps. It's a soft, crisp, clicky sound, like someone gently tapping a wine glass. In another life, in a different era, that might have been adorable. Here and now, it sounds like, "Roommate, dinner. We'll debate it later." Okay, time to move. You begin backing away, gently, heel-toe, doing the slow dance of someone deeply committed to living past lunch. You are a walking, trembling cease and desist letter addressed to the entire Cretaceous period. But then, from somewhere deeper in the woods, another call answers. This one is lower, more impatient. It sounds like someone asking, "Seriously? Do we have to eat salad again?" Ah, pack behavior then. Wonderful. You glance between the trees as more shadows flicker into existence. They aren't rushing. They're taking their time. They're deciding. Your gut instinct is screaming, "Don't run." But your anxiety is countering with, "Screaming is excellent cardio." And then there's evolution. Whispering, "Blend in, you idiot." You decide to listen to evolution, mostly because it has much better Yelp reviews. So, you crouch down behind a giant fern, lowering yourself until your silhouette looks more like a weird plant and less like a panicked mammal having a full-blown crisis. The lead raptor continues forward, its claws tapping like it's late for a very important, very murdery business meeting. A second one trails just behind it, fluffing its feathers and complaining in a series of chirps that absolutely feel like high school drama. The first one snaps its jaws softly in reply. Oh, I get it. Siblings. Even in prehistory, someone is always saying, "Hurry up," and someone else is saying, "Don't you rush me." They cross your path, so close you could touch them. They're elegant, focused, and just radiating murderous intent. Their long tails slice through the air like punctuation marks at the end of a sentence you really don't want to read. You hold your breath for so long your lungs are probably drafting a formal workplace grievance. Finally, the pack drifts past, each step calculated, light and silent. Well, except for that one clumsy one in the back who stumbles over a root and then tries to play it off like it totally meant to do that. Relatable. The moment stretches into an eternity. You don't move. You don't blink. Even your sweat is too afraid to drip. Slowly, the forest seems to exhale. A single cicada resumes its buzzing. Somewhere high above, a pterosaur squawks like someone just dropped its lunch. You unclench exactly one muscle, then another, in the slow, careful release of a person who has just resisted the urge to prematurely evolve into a fossil. You whisper to yourself, because whispering is the only volume that feels legal right now. They weren't trying to eat me. They were just thinking about it. And somehow, that feels so much worse. You rise from your crouch, creaking, awkward, like a folding chair in deep denial, and brush the mud from your arms. The world is calm again. But now you know something new. This place doesn't just have the apex predators, the CEOs of terror. It has middle management predators too, the assistant managers of mayhem. And if there's one thing you know about assistant managers, it's that they are always trying to prove themselves. You tiptoe onward, a little quieter, a little wiser, and with the deep existential certainty that here, in the Cretaceous food chain, you hold the prestigious rank of optional snack. It's the sound of a herd on the move. Heavy footfalls, breath like bellows, and the soft thud of horn against horn as someone negotiates brunch plans. You hold perfectly still, trying to become part of the background. They pass by like a convoy of armored buses, their tails swishing through the humid air. One of the younger ones, a juvenile, stares up at you with the exact same expression a teenager gives when they spot an adult trying way too hard to be cool. You do not wave. You are not cool. The ground vibrates beneath your feet, not in the sharp, panicked bursts of a predator, but in steady, rolling pulses. It's like the geological equivalent of rush hour traffic. The leaves on the trees quiver. Small branches tremble. Somewhere nearby, a pine cone gives up and drops to the forest floor, clearly not built for this kind of emotional pressure. And then they emerge from the tree line like tanks with very strong opinions. They are massive, lumbering bodies draped in thick, patterned hide, with muscles shifting under their armor plates like boulders deciding to flex for fun. Every single rise of a shoulder is a small earthquake. Each exhale is a steam engine sighing. You instinctively take a step back, though realistically you could back up all the way to the late Jurassic and still feel completely unqualified to be here. Triceratops. They are majestic, magnificent, and surprisingly judgmental for creatures who look permanently one headbutt away from filing their taxes. Their 3 horns curve impressively, shimmering slightly in the dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy. Their frills fan out wide behind their heads like prehistoric satellite dishes tuned entirely to one channel. Does that thing look biteable? And you? You are, without a doubt, decidedly bite-sized. They move in a loose formation, a community built on a few simple principles. Don't get separated, don't annoy Susan, and if it looks like a T-Rex, point your face knives at it. Every so often, one of them snorts, sending a cloud of mist into the air. Think of a bull, but with significantly more personal bulk and a whole lot less patience. You're pretty sure one of them just flared its nostrils specifically at you, not as a threat, but more out of second-hand embarrassment on your behalf. They see your mud-caked outfit, your pathetic leaf drapery, your trembling posture. They do not respect your look. And honestly, you can't blame them. If someone in business casual wandered onto a modern battlefield, you'd probably stare too. A calf, no bigger than a large pig but already built like an indignant refrigerator, toddles by. It pauses right in front of you, squinting its wide eyes as if it's trying to figure out if you're a new, unusually sweaty type of moss. You freeze solid, offering up your most polite praise smile, small, apologetic, and deeply, deeply unthreatening. The calf just widens its eyes, then lets out a little snort. It's not hostile, it's more like it's saying, "I'm going to remember you when I'm older, and this whole situation is going to be hilarious." Then it darts back toward its parent, who lets out a disapproving rumble in your general direction, as if to say, "Keep your weird flesh larva energy to yourself." You give a respectful nod. Because, let's be honest, that's fair. One of the adults casually brushes its horns against a massive tree, shaving bark away in long, smooth curls. The tree creaks and shakes but decides not to file a complaint. Union rules, you know. Another one dips its head to tear up a large fern bush, consuming the leaves with the slow, deliberate chewing style of someone who knows they were basically eating a salad because punching their problems is the socially acceptable right at this moment. They move like a living, breathing wall of muscle and bone. Your only job, and it's a full-time, high-stress position, is to not get noticed any more than you already have, not get underfoot, and not, under any circumstances, radiate T-Rex energy. Which is pretty easy, because right now you're radiating the energy of a frazzled squirrel caught in a thunderstorm. Suddenly, the herd shifts direction. A matriarch, towering over the rest and covered in old scars, leads the turn with the quiet confidence of someone who has absolutely speared things for less. Her presence alone feels like gravity. Her ancient eyes sweep the clearing, taking everything in. And for one tense, heart-stopping moment, they land on you. You brace yourself. You stop breathing. You seriously consider folding yourself into the shape of a fern. But then, her gaze moves on. You have been dismissed. Not as a threat, not as an equal, but as environmental clutter with a questionable bounce rate. And somehow, this feels like the best possible outcome imaginable. They pass by, slowly, powerfully, with the unspoken, absolute understanding that they own this path, this valley, this very moment in history. And you are here on borrowed time and borrowed courage. When the last tail finally flicks out of sight and the deep rumble fades into the distance, the entire forest seems to exhale. And so do you. Somewhere nearby, a tiny lizard resumes doing its tiny push-ups, because even in a world of giants, someone out here is still trying to impress someone. You wipe the sweat from your brow and sag a little against a tree. You whisper to yourself, "Okay, herbivores, not chill either." Congratulations. You just survived crossing paths with the prehistoric equivalent of armored livestock. In this world, the traffic laws are brutally simple. Big things always go first. Things with horns always have the right of way. And pedestrians. Pedestrians yield to literally everything. The midday heat turns the forest floor into a slow cooker. Shade is currency, a breeze is religion, and that cloud buildup over the low hills looks like someone's about to knock over a bucket. You move with the economy of a cat on tile, conserving sweat and dignity, but losing both. The air is so thick you could slice it, grill it, and serve it with a side of ferns. Moisture clings to you like an over-affectionate pet. Every breath feels like drinking warm soup out of the sky. Hearty, unfortunate soup. You're sweating in places you weren't even aware had pores. Your clothes cling to you like they have abandonment issues. And your mud camouflage, once a proud survival strategy, is now just a lukewarm paste sliding south with creeping betrayal. A cicada shrieks right next to your ear, a sound somewhere between a power drill and someone attempting opera through a kazoo. Another joins in, then another. And suddenly, you are front row at a cicada rock concert you did not buy tickets to. The whole forest vibrates with sound. Your skull vibrates along with it. Your ears are sweating somehow and you don't want to talk about it. You squint up through the canopy. Sunbeams cut through the trees in thick golden shafts, illuminating dancing dust motes and your incoming dehydration. Above, the clouds are stacking on the horizon, vast, white, and swollen. They look innocent, like piled whipped cream, but you know better. Every one of those marshmallow monsters is filled with prehistoric lightning and some very poor intentions. Sweat trickles down your back. You whisper to no one, "I miss air conditioning." It's funny, isn't it? In the modern world, you complain when your thermostat drifts by just 1 degree. Here, the thermostat is the sun, and the sun is a petty tyrant with no off switch. You find a pocket of shade beneath a broad cycad and collapse like a fainting Victorian poet. You stretch out your limbs, try to slow your heartbeat, and fan yourself with a frond that somehow just makes you feel hotter, not cooler. Nature laughs. Somewhere, water drips rhythmically, taunting you with hydration you're scared to approach again. You try to think cooling thoughts. Ice cubes, snow, that overly air-conditioned grocery store aisle where you'd pretend to be examining frozen peas when you were really just enjoying the chill. But instead, your brain conjures an image of a T-Rex lounging in the shade, completely unbothered, heat-tolerant, and definitely not wearing leaf-based activewear. Evolution really did distribute its perks unevenly. And then, everything stops. The air stills. The cicadas go silent. The leaves hold perfectly still mid-rustle, like someone just hit pause on the remote. Even the insects take a breath. Then, boom. Not a roar, not a predator. It's thunder. Deep, rolling, and ancient. It crawls across the sky like a mountain clearing its throat. The world goes dim as if someone pulled a cosmic curtain. A wind stirs. Gentle at first, then strangely urgent, brushing across your skin like cool fingers made of promise. Rain. You smell it before you hear it. That petrichor, rich and earthy, sweet as a forgotten memory. The first drops land fat and cold, dotting your skin and steaming slightly as they hit the baked mud. Relief floods your bones. A hiss rises from the canopy as the rain taps on the leaves, then cascades downward in eager sheets. You tilt your head back and let the water stream over your face. It's clean, cool, glorious. The first shower in 68 million years. You close your eyes, savoring the moment. Your overheated body sighs in gratitude, and for a moment you forget the fear, forget the hunger, forget the teeth lurking in the shadows. Rain is mercy. Rain is life. Then lightning cracks so close you see white behind your eyelids. And you remember, trees are nature's lightning rods, and you are currently hugging one with your entire soul. You scramble away, slipping in mud that has suddenly become slippery, wet clay. Grace? None. Momentum? Way too much. You nearly fall, grab a vine, and successfully yeet yourself into a bush instead. Great. Now you're damp, muddy, and stylishly decorated in prehistoric foliage like you're auditioning for Swamp Fashion Week. Another roll of thunder shakes the air. The rain pours harder, drumming on the soil, splashing off leaves and filling the low ground. Small streams form instantly, snaking past your ankles. You stand there in the downpour, chest heaving, hair plastered to your face, and you just laugh. It's a breathless, shaky laugh because the heat tried to cook you, and now the water is trying to drown you. Balance. But it's beautiful. Terrifyingly beautiful. The forest glows under the rain, the greens deepen, and scents rise rich and mineral. Droplets dance off fronds in little silver arcs. Everything feels alive, cleansed, electric, including the giant predator prints that are slowly filling with water like ominous little swimming pools. Right, that's a thing. The storm swells, roars, and then, gradually, it gentles. You stand there, steaming and soaked, nature's bewildered houseplant, humbled by humidity and thunder. As it passes, you blink through dripping lashes and whisper, "Okay. Weather, undefeated. I get it." Then, quietly, you move again, cooler now, calmer, and freshly aware that in this world, even the climate could eat you if it felt like trying. One piece of good news to start us off. There are no aircraft-sized mosquitoes. The bad news? The regular ones are here. Lots of them. They seem unionized and are incredibly punctual. It's like they have a schedule, and Annoy the Human is a recurring meeting at the top of every hour. You quickly learn new survival skills like exhaling only through your nose to avoid creating a carbon dioxide beacon. You learn to blink slowly, deliberately, trying not to attract attention. And you learn to accept a simple, humbling truth. Your ankles are now a buffet, and apparently they have excellent reviews. On the bright side, the constant buzzing of the mosquitoes becomes oddly hypnotic after a while. It's like a weird, organic white noise machine. Suddenly, a flash of color zips past your cheek. It's a dragonfly, a shimmering emerald jewel with wings beating like tiny swords slicing through the air. It's on the hunt for something much smaller and more excitable. With incredible grace, it snatches its prey mid-flight, devouring it with the efficiency of someone who eats protein bars while walking on a treadmill. I can't help it. I silently cheer it on. In this world, the dragonflies have become my emotional support raptors. Their snack is my small personal victory. Then, just as I'm celebrating, a mosquito lands on my forearm. This one is not subtle. It doesn't apologize. It lands like it has a reservation, has already ordered a bottle of wine, and is fully prepared to leave a scathing Yelp review later. I try a gentle approach, blowing on it lightly to dislodge it. It pauses. It seems almost offended. Then it digs in even harder, as if to say, "Oh, so we're doing attitude today, are we?" Fine. I swat, gently of course, because loud noises out here are a very bad idea. The result? I just smear a patch of mud all over my own sleeve in a slap that accomplishes absolutely nothing except exfoliating my arm. A moment later, a faint itch blooms near my collarbone. I scratch it. Almost immediately, another one appears on my leg. Then one under my hairline. It's a coordinated attack. I swat again, slower this time, my eyes darting around to make sure I haven't just announced my existence to anything loud, toothy, or existentially confident. A strange, chirping, clicking insect crawls across a leaf right beside me. It has too many knees. Far, far too many. It pauses, as if it's about to introduce itself. I decide I'm not really in the mood for social interaction right now and politely step sideways. Then another beetle trundles by. This one is shiny, iridescent, and built like a bouncer. It moves with the solemn dignity of someone dragging a cart full of ancient authority. Honestly, if it had stopped and asked me for my ID, I probably would have shown it. You just don't argue with that kind of presence. Suddenly, something buzzes right next to my ear, a persistent, whining loop that just won't quit. I swat again, even slower and quieter this time. It's the slap equivalent of whisper yelling. More mud splatters. My dignity evaporates a little more. A prehistoric-looking gnat escapes smugly. I inhale and exhale through my teeth, a sound somewhere between a sigh and a prayer. I'm starting to suspect the insects here hold staff meetings about me. I can just imagine the agenda. Mosquito number 1. All right, team, the human subject is very tender today. Lightly salted, has a distinct panic flavor. The bouncer beetle chimes in. Their mud-fashioned sense is suffering, though. We need to work on that. And the dragonfly, our fearless leader. Look, if you keep biting them, they keep moving. If they keep moving, I get more snacks. So please, continue. A low hum rises from the reeds nearby. It's not threatening, but it's insistent. It sounds like a choir of flies tuning up their tiny violins for a performance. I grab a nearby fern frond and wave it like a lazy metronome. It works for exactly 4 seconds. Then, a stray fly lands directly on my eyebrow. I start blinking rapidly, hoping it interprets that as some kind of threat. It does not. It just strolls across my forehead like it owns the place. And then I hear it. A deeper buzz, the sound of heavier wing beats. I tense up. Is it a giant bug? A swarm? No. It's a wasp-adjacent creature. It's not huge, but it's definitely big enough to make you reconsider every single lifestyle choice that led you to this moment. It hovers for a second, staring at me like I owe it money. I take a slow step back. It follows some invisible scent trail in the air and, thankfully, completely ignores me. I celebrate quietly by not dying. Eventually, you just have to accept reality. Out here, you are no longer at the top of the comfort food chain. You are, in fact, snackable in multiple ecosystems simultaneously. The bites itch, the mud on my arms dries in patchy, abstract patterns, and the combination of sweat and leaf oil has mingled into a unique fragrance I'll one day call eau de pré-extinction. A tiny insect starts crawling up my ankle. I sigh. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just spiritually tired. I whisper to myself, trying to stay calm and steady. Bugs are just protein with wings. We respect them. We don't scream at them. I pause as another mosquito lands on my hand. We just quietly negotiate for peace. And so, you carry on, swatting only when absolutely necessary, breathing slow and even, trying to radiate the aura of someone who definitely doesn't contain delicious, nutrient-rich blood. Because here, in the heart of the wild, insects aren't pests. They're employees. My soles are screaming. The ground beneath me is a cruel smorgasbord of grit, gnarled roots, and pebbles that are far too photogenic for how much they hurt. I try to be clever, twisting bark into some crude sandals. They last for about 8 heroic minutes and maybe 2 whole steps before disintegrating. Lesson learned. Lift your feet, pick your path, and try not to leave your DNA on every single thorn in this zip code. Let me tell you, being barefoot in the Cretaceous is not a vibe. It's a punishment. Every step feels like nature is auditioning to be my personal podiatrist, except this podiatrist despises me and thinks arches are just propaganda. I try tiptoeing. That brilliant idea lasts for about 4 seconds before a hidden stick jabs the soft underside of my foot with the kind of spite you normally only find in internet comment sections. I grit my teeth, whispering to myself, "It's just sensation, not pain." Then I step squarely on what looks like a pine cone fossil, engineered with the precise geometry of a medieval torture device, and suddenly I'm reevaluating every philosophy I've ever held dear. I'm hopping on one foot, screaming silently, because making a sound out here means becoming something's crunchy snack, and I'm just not ready for that kind of commitment. My feet were already filthy, a fashionable marbling of mud, dust, and what's left of my dignity. But now, they're accumulating debris like Velcro on hard mode. I've got tiny seeds, twigs, and these inexplicable sticky patches that smell vaguely of citrus but also a little bit like impending doom. I try to peel a burr from my heel, and it fights back with more attachment issues than my last relationship. I have to pause, balancing on a rock, not because I trust the rock, but because the concept of trust exited my life about 3 ecosystems ago. I take a moment to examine my foot. There it is, a small cut. No blood yet, but I know this type of cut. Back in modern times, this is the kind of minor injury that would have me frantically Googling phrases like, "Is tetanus immediate?" I let out a sigh and just dab a little mud on it. Nature's Band-Aid, which is also, conveniently, nature's bacteria wipe. What a mixed blessing. Suddenly, somewhere nearby, something chirps, loudly. It's the prehistoric equivalent of someone revving their engine just to show off. I freeze instantly, 1 foot halfway in the air, mud dripping from my toes. I become one with the concept of, "Please, for the love of all that is holy, do not see me." The silence returns. I exhale slowly, lower my foot, and immediately regret it. A new pebble lodges itself right under my arch, and the sigh that escapes me is not one of relief. It is the sound of someone who desperately wants to speak to the manager of evolution. I try a new tactic, walking heel-toe, like some kind of stealth ninja. In reality, I probably look more like a toddler who just discovered what toes are for. I seriously consider climbing a tree and just living there forever, letting the vines raise me as one of their own, becoming a local legend. But no, mobility is key. So, ankles forward, dignity left far behind me. A memory surfaces. A beautiful, painful memory of my closet back home. Sneakers with cushioning I once dismissed as just fine. Slippers I never truly appreciated. And socks. Oh dear heavens, socks. Those soft fabric hugs for your feet, invented by a partnership of angels and engineers. I make a solemn vow. If I survive this timeline, I will build a shrine to whoever invented the first pair of wool socks. I try one more time to braid leaves around my feet. This attempt works for a solid 30 seconds before turning into a slippery green crime scene. Fine, I give up. Barefoot it is. I mean, humans survived like this for millennia, right? Sure, they had tougher skin, nerves of steel, and a cultural willingness to just suffer. But I have determination and spite. It's mostly spite at this point. Another step, and another. Progress is slow, but it's real, kind of like trying to cross a Lego-covered floor in the dark without swearing. Just as I'm about to give up hope, the forest floor shifts. It's softer here. It's moss. Grateful relief washes over me. Moss. Blessed, damp, cloud-textured moss. I press my foot into it like it as a memory foam mattress made by benevolent forest spirits. It squishes gently under my weight, cool and forgiving. For one divine moment, life is actually good. And then a tiny beetle crawls across my toes, and I remember that I now live in a constant state of fear. I straighten up, roll my shoulders, and force myself to continue. Each footfall is careful, reverent, and just a little bit resentful. My feet are scratched, sore, and feel vaguely insulted by this whole experience. I start whispering encouragement to them, like they're co-workers who didn't sign up for this overtime. We're doing great. I love you. Please don't quit on me now. I limp onward, a warrior of the souls, humbled by the ground, betrayed by gravity, and now profoundly aware that civilization's greatest invention was not fire. It was footwear. And I swear, with all the passion of someone who has truly, deeply learned their lesson, that the moment I get home, I am buying the fluffiest slippers I can find. And I am never, ever taking them off again. Every scent is a story, and out here, you learn to read the air like a book written in molecules. It's a slow art, this dance of survival, moving from one scent pool to another. You step across damp sand, feeling the coolness seep through your feet. Then you find a log, sun-warmed and radiating the heat of the day. You pause, letting the scent of dry wood fill your senses before slipping into a stand of aromatic shrubs. Suddenly, you smell like a salad with a serious case of anxiety. Every choice you make is a coin toss, and you're desperately hoping it lands on boring. You raise your head just slightly, flaring your nostrils. It's not the graceful, powerful movement of a wolf. It's more like someone trying to remember if they left the stove on back at home. The air here isn't uniform. It shifts in layers. Warm drafts glide over cool pockets of air, and the humidity clings to every breath you take. You inhale deeply, trying to decipher the complex bouquet. It tastes like pine sap, earthy fungus, and something else. A hint of warning. It's not the specific scent of an animal, but more like the emotional flavor of knowing something big and powerful paid rent nearby very recently. It's funny, back in civilization, reading the air meant something completely different. It was about interpreting your boss's tone in a meeting, or spotting the exact moment a friendly get-together was about to turn into a multi-level marketing pitch. But out here, it means deciding if the breeze is carrying a friend, a foe, or a clear message that says, "You should not be here, and I am telling you with molecules." You lower yourself, not into a full crouch, just enough so your nose is level with the drifting layers of air. You probably look ridiculous, but let's be honest, survival rarely awards style points. A faint, musky note drifts by. It's the scent of something large and warm-blooded that passed through here not long ago. But it isn't sharp, not like a predator. Predator scent tends to lean towards metal and intent. This is earthier. It smells like a sweaty refrigerator full of leafy greens. An herbivore. That's goodish news. Large things that only eat plants are generally fine. Unless, of course, they don't see you until you're directly under them. You make a quick mental note. Do not get trampled to death while practicing scent mindfulness. You take a few slow, deliberate steps sideways, letting the wind brush against the front of your body instead of your back. This is simple predator math. If they smell you from the front, you're an intruder. If they smell you from behind, you're a statistic. You, however, would much prefer the third option, not being smelled at all, which, let's be real, is aspirational at best. Suddenly, a new breeze nudges your face. This one is colder, sharper, like stone and shadow. You freeze instantly. The hairs on your arms stand up, a silent alarm system wired directly to your survival instinct. This scent is older, drier, and threaded with decay? Not fresh death, no, more like ancient meat energy. It's the scent of something territorial, something large enough to create its own weather pattern when it breathes. Slowly, so slowly it's almost imperceptible, you pivot your foot. The sand whispers under your toes. Your lungs feel like they've shrunk to the size of a mouse's. You scan the mid-distance, your eyes darting between the ferns and cycads, searching for any sign of movement. There's a log that looks like it has witnessed a lifetime of regrets, but nothing else. Then a strong gust of wind brings relief. The scent is fading. It's only the distant, lingering memory of a predator. Maybe a few hours old, maybe a day. It's hard to know for sure. You didn't exactly take aromatherapy for avoiding being devoured in school. But it's gone now. Mostly. Which is comforting in the same way that learning your house is only moderately haunted is comforting. You continue forward, but diagonally. Always diagonally. In nature, walking in a straight line is a sign of confidence, or profound stupidity. You're aiming for something in between. Nervous, but competent. You duck beneath a low-hanging branch and step into a grove of pungent shrubs. They smell of pine, mint, and pure, unadulterated panic. You rub a few leaves between your palms, smearing the sap across your wrists, your neck, and behind your ears. If you were a candle right now, your scent profile would be forest terror with notes of herbal desperation. Movement nearby. You freeze. A small herbivore pops its head up from behind a bush, big, curious eyes, twitching ears, frozen mid-chew. You both stare at each other in a silent standoff. It stares. You stare. It sniffs the air. You sniff the air too, out of a strange sense of solidarity. After a moment, it dismisses you and returns to its meal, completely unconcerned, which is either a very good sign or a terribly ominous one. If the prey is this relaxed, it means one of two things. Either the predator has already eaten, or it's standing right behind you. You swallow. Hard. Like a person who just got a sudden, bitter taste of existential dread. Another breeze sweeps through the clearing, cooler this time. It carries the moisture from a distant stream and the earthy undernote of moss. No metal, no blood, no impending doom. Just the smell of thyme and ferns, and the heavy sweetness of a summer that existed long before mammals ruined everything with office culture. You exhale slowly, a small smile playing on your lips. You're getting better at this. At listening, at smelling, at reading the invisible language of the air and trusting your instincts. And then, a fat, wet splat lands squarely on your shoulder. You look down. It's a blob of prehistoric bird poop, delivered with the accuracy of a sniper and smelling faintly of fermented regret. You blink twice. Somewhere high up in the canopy, you could swear you hear something cackle. Fine. The air giveth, and the air humiliateth. You wipe it off with a leaf, whispering to yourself, I am one with nature, while sounding deeply, deeply unconvinced, and you move on, quieter now, scented like shrubbery and indignation, trusting the wind to keep telling you its secrets, and hoping it keeps its loudest warning subtle enough not to wake whatever made them. The water's only knee-deep, sparkling under the sun, looking all innocent. But don't let that fool you. On the far bank, there are fresh gouges in the mud, like something absolutely massive used it as its personal slip and slide. You start to wade in at the shallowest point, your eyes darting back and forth between the banks, ready to hit the reverse button on your entire life at the first sign of trouble. The water glimmers in the dappled sunlight, almost hypnotic, inviting. It's like a screensaver for people who still have a shred of hope left. But out here, hope is just a fancy word for what gets you eaten. This is a place with teeth bigger than your 5-year plan. You crouch low, tasting the air again, listening. Every sound, every movement matters. River crossings are nature's pop quizzes, and if you fail this one, your final grade is digestible. The current seems lazy, like it's on its lunch break. But that's a comforting lie. Beneath the surface, you know pebbles are shifting, silt is flickering, and somewhere, in the corner of your memory more than your sight, something long, very long, is slithering. Your instinct coils tight in your shoulders. No sudden movements, no splashes. You're trying to cross a road where all the cars are jaws. You pick a path through the shallowest threads of water, stepping on the broadest, flattest stones you can find. Each footfall is a quiet negotiation with the universe. Please stay stable, you think. Please don't wobble. Please don't announce my existence to the local murder fish. A dragonfly hovers near your face for a moment, wobbling like a tiny, chaotic helicopter. It bobs, zips around, inspects you, and then flits off, apparently satisfied that you're not edible, just embarrassing. A tiny splash upstream. It's small, insignificant, but your imagination goes off like a faulty smoke alarm, loud, panicked, and convinced everything is a raging fire. Your breath catches in your throat. A leaf floats by, completely innocent. And yet, the river suddenly feels deeper, older, and like it has a very strong opinion about you being here. You take another step. Cold water kisses your ankles, curling around your calves with a gentle affection that could turn violent without any warning. The mud camouflage you painstakingly applied is thinning, dissolving in streaks. You're sacrificing your concealment to the gods of hydration and anxiety. You're halfway across now. This is the exact moment in every bad documentary where the narrator's voice kicks in. They were doing so well, and then they made a decision. You freeze again. There's a subtle swirl just ahead. The water is bending around something unseen. Is it just a submerged branch? A rock? Or is it a reptilian nightmare with a dinner-level curiosity about you? It's hard to say, and unfairly, nature does not offer tooltips to help you figure it out. You retreat one step, silently. You're testing the current, testing fate. The swirl fades. You look around, the reeds shift, the shadows ripple, and the cicadas are performing a buzzing drum roll that absolutely no one asked for. Okay, time to move, forward, slow, controlled, one stone at a time. A sun-baked log juts out from the far bank, looking like nature's welcome mat. You aim for it, because right now it feels symbolic, safe, stable, a finish line. You're almost there. You lean forward and slosh. A massive sound. But it wasn't you. It wasn't human-sized. Something downstream breaks the surface for half a second, just long enough to remind you that you are trespassing in a place where you are not the main character. A broad ripple rolls away from the spot, and the water closes over it again. Way too calm, way too fast. You whisper, "Nope, nope, nope," in that exact tone someone uses when they rebacking away from a family argument they didn't start, but might very well die in. The last 3 steps are a controlled sprint disguised as dignity. You don't run, you just relocate, briskly. You reach the far mud bank, your fingers gripping roots for leverage, and you haul yourself onto that blessed solid dirt like a beleaguered sea lion entering its villain era. You collapse on your hands and knees. The ground feels solid, warm, and completely indifferent to your plight. But most importantly, it doesn't feel hungry. You'll take it. Behind you, the river murmurs along, sparkling as if it didn't just wage psychological warfare on you for the last 10 minutes. A small fish jumps. You jump about 10 times harder than the fish did. You whisper to the universe, "Crossed, alive, 0 stars, would not ford again." Then you slink back into the foliage, dripping, grimy, and thoroughly humbled by a body of water that could not have cared less whether you existed or not. And somewhere, deep in the reeds, a pair of ancient eyes blink slowly, completely unbothered. Because in a place like this, even the rivers are watching you. And they too have teeth. They just use them at their convenience. From a predator's perspective, you are fast food, but not the good kind. You're the low-yield, high-chase, bones inconveniently located on the inside kind. Herd animals? They're buffets with legs. You're a granola bar that screams. The plan, if you can call it that, is simple. Be near the bigger meals without becoming the garnish. You are, at best, a side quest in their grand, prehistoric drama. Calories rule this world, and that's a lesson you're learning the hard way. You don't think in calories back home. You think in terms like, is this keto? Or, I absolutely deserve this pastry because I have feelings. Here, though, every living thing calculates energy like it's solving some ancient, impossible tax code. Eat more than you burn, you survive. Burn more than you eat, you become compost. It's the most primal form of economics, and you are deeply in debt. Right now, you're crouched behind a plant that looks suspiciously like a giant prehistoric fern, watching a herd of hadrosaurs graze in a clearing. They're tearing mouthfuls of foliage with the quiet determination of creatures who know they must constantly eat or die. You watch them chew, and you watch the tree line behind them like your life depends on it. Because, well, it does. Predators see that herd as a long-term investment, a solid retirement plan. They see you as an impulse purchase, the candy bar at the checkout counter they might grab if they're bored. Let's do a little math, shall we? Your calories for the day: 1 sip of questionable river water, 1 deep whiff of existential dread, and 0 actual nutrients. We can also factor in the negative 2,000 emotional calories you've burned off purely through anxiety. Now, let's look at a predator's potential haul. 1 unlucky duck-billed dinosaur equals a lifetime free buffet pass. The numbers just don't stack up in your favor. You wipe sweat from your forehead, the humidity clinging to you like a second skin. Hunger hums low in your stomach, a polite but insistent vibration. It's like a cat gently tapping your shoulder to remind you that it exists and is profoundly disappointed in your life choices. Suddenly, a rustle in the undergrowth. Something heavy, moving parallel to the herd. You flatten yourself behind the foliage so fast you basically become a fern impersonator again, hoping for a passing grade. Through the leaves, you glimpse it. A mid-tier carnivore, maybe some kind of troodontid or dromaeosaur, its feathers ruffling like an assassin adjusting its cape before a big job. It stalks the herd, its eyes bright and calculating. This isn't a reckless charge, it's strategic, efficient. You are literally watching it perform calorie math in real time. That large herd animal? High calories, high risk, but a very high reward. You? A single-serving packet of sadness. Low calories, probably high confusion for the predator. Why are you so soft? Why the weird clothes? It completely, entirely, and utterly ignores you. It doesn't even grant you a passing glance. And the weirdest part? A tiny, irrational part of you is insulted. You are both incredibly relieved and strangely hurt. Predator indifference might be nature's most humbling Yelp review. 0 stars, not even worth a bite. You shift slightly on your haunches, your stomach rumbling again, this time with a bit more attitude. You would pay actual currency, right now, for a protein bar. Peanut butter flavor, obviously. Not one of those chalky ones that taste like sadness and sawdust, but one of the good ones that pretends to be a dessert. Instead, you reach out and nibble a tiny piece of a fern frond. You instantly spit it out. Bitter, fibrous, and almost certainly poisonous. 0 stars would not snack again. This is not the foraging experience you read about in survival blogs. Suddenly, the predator makes its move. It's a blur of muscle and claw, a flash of deadly intent. The herd erupts into chaos, bellowing, stamping, crashing through the brush in a panic. Dust lifts into the air, catching the golden light of the afternoon sun. Leaves rain down from shaken branches. You hold perfectly still, your heart smashing against your ribs like it's trying to escape first. Smart, but rude. The chase arcs away from you, a violent and fast-moving storm of teeth and terror, and then, just as quickly as it began, the world falls quiet again. It's the kind of profound quiet that follows chaos, a silence that reminds everyone that survival is a rude, loud, and messy business. Slowly, painstakingly, you allow your shoulders to relax. You exhale a breath you didn't even realize you were holding. You remain delicious in your own way, but unselected. The universe swiped left. You crawl forward, belly to the ground, toward a small patch of what looks like edible moss. You test it cautiously. No bitterness, no burning sensation on your tongue. It seems safe. You chew a little. It's bland, earthy, like eating a damp carpet that happens to have some vitamins in it. But it's calories. And right now, calories are currency. You accept this pathetic meal. You are now officially foraging like a wet, confused herbivore. Somewhere, your ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors are simultaneously applauding your will to live and cringing at your technique. You try to gather more, careful not to uproot it completely. Sustainability matters, especially when you have no idea if you might wake up here again tomorrow. A cicada buzzes somewhere nearby, loud enough to rattle your skull. You flinch, then force yourself to continue chewing your prehistoric salad of shame. You whisper some encouragement to yourself. Food is food. We are surviving. This counts. Your stomach immediately growls again, louder this time as if to say, "Nice try." And you mutter back, "Okay, but also, pizza." As if on cue, a distant roar answers your craving. It sounds like the universe overheard your request for Italian food and instead offered Tyrannosaurus. Your spine locks. Every muscle in your body goes rigid. You swallow the mouthful of moss and it suddenly tastes 1,000 times worse. Hunger flees, chased off by a fresh, potent wave of adrenaline. Welcome to Cretaceous calorie math, my friend. The rules are simple. Eat when you can. Hide when you must. And never, ever forget your place in the food chain. You're not the predator. You're not even the main course. You're the snack aisle. You heft a branch and a rock and immediately picture both of them snapping, bouncing, and filing a formal complaint with gravity. Against small nuisances, sure, they might be helpful. But against the landlord, it's pure theater. You realize your sharpest tool isn't in your hands. It's route selection. That, and a very persuasive whisper to yourself. Left, low, quiet. You roll the rock in your palm. It's smooth, oval, about the size of a very insecure potato. It has no edge, no point, no real intention. Honestly, if you threw it at a predator, the only certain outcome is that the predator would now own a rock. And, let's be clear, rocks do not belong in a predator's enrichment enclosure. They belong in your trembling hand, symbolizing a confidence you absolutely do not have. The stick isn't much better. It bends more than you do during awkward small talk. You test its weight, give it a cautious little swing. It whistles through the humid air with all the threat level of a disgruntled celery stalk. You look at it, and it seems to look back, metaphorically of course, and says, "I am for gently poking mushrooms, my friend, not for war." Still, tools are tools, right? Humans got this far because we learned to pick things up and misuse them creatively. You can't just abandon tradition now. So you kneel beside a fallen log and start rummaging like a raccoon doing its year-end inventory. A longer branch? Too brittle. Another one. Too wormy. A chunk of bark flakes off like it's auditioning for an anti-dandruff commercial. Then, finally, you find something vaguely spear-adjacent. It's straight-ish, dense, and has one end that's naturally tapered into, Well, not a point, but an enthusiastic suggestion of a point. Progress. You practice a quick stab with your new find. You immediately regret it because you almost stab your own foot. A single dry leaf flutters off the stick as if it's distancing itself for liability reasons. Okay. New plan. Your best weapon is now invisibility through sheer awkwardness. If a predator approaches, you'll simply vibrate out of existence through pure anxiety and hope that physics cooperates. You tuck the rock into your palm like a talisman and grip your stick like it as a legal emotional support item. You feel, well, not strong, definitely not powerful, but marginally upgraded from barely sentient marshmallow. A beetle crawls over your toes. You lift your foot like royalty stepping away from a scandal. The beetle, entirely unimpressed, marches on with the kind of self-esteem you can only dream of. You glance at your stick again. Maybe, just maybe, if a very small predator, I'm talking squirrel-sized and extremely emotionally fragile, attacked you, this whole setup might just work. Suddenly, a rustle in the brush. You freeze. You crouch. Your stick slowly lowers from weapon mode into home decor mode. Then, out pops a little prehistoric rodent-like creature. It has round ears, whiskers, and big eyes like it's permanently surprised by life. The two of you lock eyes. The rodent glances at your stick. Its whiskers twitch. You can practically feel the judgment radiating off of it. It waddles away, completely unimpressed by your armory, as if thinking, "Ah, yes, the mighty shrub warrior." You exhale. Your tools remain untested, probably for the best. You adjust your grip on the stick again. Absolutely no reason, just total muscle memory. It's certainly not because the stick keeps slipping from your sweat-slick grip, like it knows you are fundamentally unworthy. You wipe your hands on your thigh. Mud smears everywhere. The stick remains unimproved. Then, in the distance, a roar rolls through the trees, deep and utterly effortless. Every muscle in your body turns into uncooked pasta. You don't lift the stick. Instead, you quietly set it down beside your foot, because in this moment, the truth matters. This stick is not a sword. It is optimism with splinters. You whisper to yourself, tools are symbolic. Courage is optional. Running is plan A through Z. And then you pick the stick back up, because humans cling to hope, even when that hope looks like a limp twig. You do the smartest thing available. You start moving. Softly, slowly, downwind, staying low, constantly scanning for cover. You're trusting that caution beats caveman cosplay any day of the week. The rock stays in your hand. The stick rests on your shoulder like a prop from a tragic school play. And deep down, beneath the fear, the hunger, and the mud, a tiny spark glows. It's not strength, it's not power, it's persistence. Because in this era, tools are laughable, claws are king, and sometimes survival is just refusing to give up the world's least intimidating spear. Exhaustion is calling a meeting, and you're the only one on the agenda. So, you find it. A small mercy in the form of a toppled tree trunk. You nestle under it, where cool air breathes from the hollow, and the light, filtered through a million leaves, paints shifting patterns on your arms. A beetle, no bigger than your thumbnail, trundles past. It moves with the stoic pride of someone hauling a small, precious future, completely unaware of your own precarious existence. You begin to drift, one ear tuned to the wind, one hand resting on the cool earth, ready to jolt back to full awareness in a single, panicked heartbeat. You didn't plan this nap. Naps are for couches, for gentle breezes rustling through open windows on a Sunday afternoon. They're for that one overstuffed chair everyone calls Grandpa's chair, even if no one's had a grandpa for generations. But out here, a nap isn't a luxury. It's tactical. You don't really rest so much as you pause your existence, while remaining deeply, profoundly suspicious of everything around you. The shade under this fallen log feels like an act of grace. The damp soil presses coolness into your skin. a welcome relief from the constant, humid heat. Above you, fern fronds arch like the stained glass windows of a cathedral, if cathedral glass were leafy and probably filled with spiders. Sunlight trickles through the canopy in lazy golden beams, illuminating dust motes that dance like miniature fairies with absolutely zero union protections. You lay your head sideways on your arm. It's not comfortable, not by a long shot, but honestly, it's still the best mattress you've had since waking up approximately 68 million years too early. Your eyelids start to droop. Not all the way, just enough to simulate the idea of resting, while every one of your senses continues its frantic patrol of the perimeter. You listen. The constant hum of the forest seems to slow down. It's not getting quieter, just softer. The cicadas drone in long, drowsy waves that wash over you. The leaves whisper to each other in a language you can't translate, but you understand the sentiment. Somewhere in the distance, you hear a herd murmuring, that low, rolling rhythm of giants digesting their lunch and contemplating their afternoon life choices. Your breathing finally finds a rhythm of its own, in with the warm, earthy air, out with the tension you've been clutching like an emotional support backpack filled with rocks. For a single, flickering moment, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time, almost safe. As if the world, for just a minute, is content to ignore you and let you be. And then, something brushes against your ankle. Your soul attempts to exit your body through your eyebrows. You jerk, just a little, cracking one eye open to identify the threat. And there it is, a small lizard. It has a long tail, tiny, delicate claws, and eyes that look like it's deep in thought about the concept of daylight savings time. It seems to nod at you, or maybe it just swallowed a bug, then continues on its way, completely and utterly unimpressed by your near-death experience. You manage to whisper back, "Okay, hi," rude, before trying to coax your heart back into your chest. You resume breathing. Sleep tries again, its approach now gentle and heavy. Your muscles start to unwind, one fiber at a time. The tight clench in your jaw releases. Your toes unclench. You didn't even know your toes could clench like that. Now you do. Another thing to worry about. A breeze slips through the trees, carrying with it the promise of distant water and something else. The faint, unwelcome note of predator musk. It's not close, but it's real. Your spine mentally pencils in a new item on its to-do list. Wake up instantly if the world ends. Still, your body insists. Just 10 minutes. 10 tiny, prehistoric minutes. Is that so much to ask? Your thoughts begin to drift like lazy pterosaurs circling high overhead. Remember when naps were optional. Remember pillows? Remember a time when you didn't have to be afraid of the grass itself? You let out a silent chuckle at the absurdity of it all, longing for the simple luxury of mattress springs. Truly, luxury is all about context. A fly lands near your ear, its buzz an irritating intrusion. You flick it away with the practiced, weary precision of a monk swatting away a distracting thought. The forest resumes its ancient lullaby. Your head sinks a little deeper into the crook of your elbow. Your breath is slow. Your heart is steady. Your mind begins to dissolve into the warmth and the scent of moss. And then, a crack. Sharp. Close. It could be a twig snapping under the weight of a small animal. Or it could be doom. You don't bolt upright. You don't gasp. You simply freeze, every trace of sleep evaporating as if you just heard your boss say, "Can we have a quick sync?" Your eyes are barely open, just slits, scanning the undergrowth. Nothing, no movement, no roar, no thunderous footfall. Just a squirrel-sized dinosaur wrestling with a berry bush like it owes it money. Your body, slowly, cautiously, accepts the all clear. Your eyelids fall again, heavier this time. Dreams begin to skim the edges of your consciousness. Fragments of a forgotten world, something about shoes, ice cream, and not constantly fearing your own evaporation from the gene pool. The warmth wraps around you like a blanket woven from leaves. You rest in the hush, half human, half forest shadow, a tiny mammal-shaped sigh of existence. This isn't laziness, this is survival. You nap like prey, lightly, reluctantly, and with the dramatic awareness that waking up alive is never a guarantee. Then, held in the soft cradle of the shade and the ancient air, you whisper to the world, or maybe just to yourself, 5 more minutes. And for a rare, quiet stretch of time, the Cretaceous agrees. Let's talk about running. No, not that casual jog in the park. I'm talking about the kind of running where your fragile knees and a desperate sense of optimism are all you've got. The thing you're running from? It has long strides and a terrifying patience. In this scenario, the smart move isn't speed, it's geometry. You have to thread yourself through tight trees, leap over deadfall, and scramble across broken ground where a heavy foot would hesitate. Your sprint is a sentence, and the obstacles. They're the period at the end. It doesn't start with a roar. That's just Hollywood lying to you. It starts with a sudden shift in the air. The birds go silent. The insects fall quiet mid-buzz. The trees seem to stop gossiping. Every sense you have, and a few you didn't even know lived inside you, just screams, "Move." There's no warning label, no dramatic intro music. Just a raw, primal instinct detonating in your ribs like a car alarm. You don't see it. You feel it. A pressure building behind you. Heavy, ancient, hungry. A vibration running up through the soil and into your very bones, as if the world just cleared its throat right behind you. You don't check. You don't look back. Looking back is for people who want to confirm they're doomed. You're not gathering data. You're filing a leave of absence from existence. Your legs answer before your brain can even process the command. Forward. Fast. Or at least what your body considers fast. You're not so much sprinting as you are scrambling with ambition. Your feet slap against roots, skid through mud, and kick up leaves in frantic punctuation marks. Breath bursts from you in short, panicked syllables. Your lungs are basically doing jazz at this point. None of the rhythms make any sense. Behind you, a branch snaps with the delicate subtlety of an atom bomb. The forest floor quakes under reality being displaced. The air compresses. You could swear you hear teeth rearranging the very molecules of hope. You don't run in a straight line. You zag. Hard. Nature becomes your ally, but only out of pure pettiness toward anything heavier than you. You dive between 2 tree trunks just wide enough for you, but definitely not wide enough for what feels like your surprise apex landlord. Bark scratches your arms. A vine slaps your face with botanical disrespect. You leap a fallen log. You don't clear it gracefully. Your knee clips the moss, your arms pinwheel, and any shred of dignity you had falls off behind you like loose change. But you do not stop. Recovery is messy, but alive is alive. A clearing opens up ahead, a sunlit betrayal. It's too open, too flat, too visible. You veer left before your survival instincts can physically kick your brain. Back into the ferns. Back into the shadow. Back into blessed, glorious obstacles. At this point, you are officially pro-crash terrain. Smooth ground is for people who aren't currently being auditioned for an appetite. A breath that is not yours huffs behind you, low, rumbling, like a furnace exhaling. It's closer now, close enough to warm the hairs on your neck with an ancient, murderous breath. Your soul briefly exits your body to file a formal complaint with management. Up ahead, a tangle of thick branches. You drop low, practically crab-scuttling across the ground, praying your joints don't decide to unionize mid-escape. Branches scrape your back. Something large swipes through them right behind you. Wood splinters. Leaves burst upward in a green explosion. You don't scream. Instead, you invent a new form of internal screaming that transcends sound entirely. Then you spot salvation. A snarl of fallen timber and stones forming a low barricade. Perfect. You slide over it, ducking into a narrow gap where tall predators would need to mortgage their spinal flexibility to follow. It's dark, it's damp, it smells like mushrooms and pure, unadulterated fear. Perfect ambiance. And then, silence. Your heartbeat slams so loudly you worry evolution made a critical mistake by giving you one. You press yourself against the cold wood, your ribs heaving, just listening. Outside, heavy footfalls slow to a stop. The soil compresses. Leaves whisper. Something sniffs. A long, dragging inhale, as if it's reading memoirs from the air itself. You don't breathe. Even your sweat seems to hold still. Another sniff. Then, quiet. A pause as heavy as judgment. And finally, you hear steps moving away. Slow. Confident. Almost offended it had to break a sweat for such a meager potential reward. You stay wedged in your damp panic cave until the forest slowly remembers itself. Insects resume buzzing. Distant hooves murmur. The wind starts carrying gossip again. Only then do you exhale the breath you started in a different century. Your legs tremble. Your head spins. Your mud camouflage flakes off like stress dandruff. But you are here. Whole. Unchewed. Miraculous. You crawl out slowly. Not triumphant, just grateful to legally rejoin existence. Your voice croaks out a single whisper. Okay. Note to self. Cardio. Definitely cardio. And somewhere deep in the ferns, the ancient world chuckles politely, because out here you don't win chases. You simply don't lose today. We're exploring the art of stillness, the profound and primal skill of becoming invisible in a world that's always watching. Imagine this. You're in a place where sound is a betrayal and movement is a death sentence. Here, stillness is a color. You learn to freeze when the light shifts, to move only when the leaves hiss. You treat your own shadow like it's contraband. When a curious eye sweeps past your location, you aren't a person. You are bark. You are a branch. You are just a disagreement in the landscape. Congratulations, you've just survived by acting like furniture. You ease into a low squat beside a tree trunk thicker than your future retirement fund. Your spine is straight, your arms nestled among the cool, damp fronds. The mud that caked your skin earlier has now dried into mottled patches, flaking off in places like old paint on a barn. It's an accidental artistry, courtesy of fear and humidity. In this dappled light, you are a smear of earth tones and trembling ambition. A living statue, a nervous shrub, perhaps even a caffeinated log. Here, motion is the ultimate betrayal. You've learned that movement attracts attention the way free Wi-Fi attracts laptops. So you become still, not just physically, but spiritually. Every muscle in your body hums in protest, a silent rebellion against this unnatural calm. Your foot twitches once, a tiny, involuntary spasm, and you glare at it like a strict parent disciplining a toddler in the middle of a church service. The foot listens. Even it seems to understand what's at stake. A flock of feathered proto-birds darts overhead, their chirping sounding like someone just spilled a bag of sunflower seeds in the middle of a gossip club. They hop from branch to branch, bold, quick, completely oblivious to your very personal, very quiet existential crisis. One of them, braver than the rest, lands on a branch near your shoulder. Its head tilts, its beady eyes filled with an innocent curiosity. You do not look at it. You don't even dare to breathe deeply. You radiate pure I am foliage energy with the conviction of a true believer. The creature chirps again, pecks at a bit of moss on the bark, and then hops away, probably reporting back to its friends that the weird-looking leaf pile is, in fact, incredibly uninteresting. This, right here, is the highest compliment you can receive in this world, to be utterly forgettable. Then, a rustle, something larger this time. You don't turn your head, not even a millimeter. Only your eyeballs shift, slowly, cautiously, like they're being operated on a dimmer switch. Through the underbrush, a medium-sized dinosaur ambles into view. It's bipedal, covered in sleek feathers, its narrow snout sniffing at the ground. Foraging, searching, just existing. It isn't here for you. Not yet. It pauses. Your heart does that thing where it completely forgets how to beat for a second, and then desperately tries to overcompensate, hammering against your ribs. The creature's head rises, its eyes scanning the area, its nostrils flexing as it tastes the air. You can almost imagine it reading your scent, your resume, deciding if the sheer panic coursing through your veins counts as a decent seasoning. In that moment, you become nothing. You become the moss on the tree. Your brain switches to screensaver mode, cycling through a single, desperate thought. Don't blink. Don't breathe. Don't have a personality. A sudden breeze sways the fronds beside you, and so you sway too. A subtle, soft movement, like you're practicing Tai Chi in the witness protection program. The predator's gaze drifts right past you, completely uninterested. Its head lowers and it moves on, disappearing back into the dense foliage. The leaves around you seem to whisper in relief. You remain perfectly still for an extra 3 seconds, a small token of respect for your frayed nerves, then finally allow yourself one single exhale. Quiet, slow. It's the breath of someone who has just successfully negotiated with death via interpretive stillness. Just as you think you're safe, a mosquito lands on your cheek. Your soul screams in agony, but your face does not move. You let the tiny insect sample you as if you're a profound disappointment at a wine-tasting bar. After a moment, it buzzes off, satisfied. You endure. This is primitive mindfulness. This is prehistoric meditation. It is extreme yoga, practiced in the hostile rainforest of pure anxiety. Somewhere deep inside, a Zen monk is giving you a standing ovation. Somewhere else, your hamstring is filing a formal protest and demanding to speak to HR. Finally, when your muscles start to whisper shout, "Please, for the love of all that is holy, move," you shift. 1 inch, then another. Your joints pop so softly that even you can barely hear it. You melt back into motion, dripping between the shadows like a ghost with social anxiety. You step forward with a newfound reverence, carefully distributing your weight across the moss, testing twigs before you trust them with your life, keeping your arms tucked in close. You move as though the world's volume has been permanently set to library. You do not disturb the peace. You do not break the illusion. Because in this world, invisibility isn't a superpower or a magic cloak. It's a performance. And, congratulations, you have officially mastered the art of method acting as a bush. Imagine this. A duck-billed procession clacks through the shallows, their tails carving lazy S-shapes in the water. Mothers steer their calves with gentle hip checks, like giant, scaly bumper cars. You take the far edge, moving like a cautious cyclist hugging the curb, letting the herd become your moving curtain of safety. Suddenly, one adult snorts, and 50 heads lift in synchronized suspicion. You immediately find a very, very interesting leaf to stare at until they stop caring. It works. They're like a public transit system that nobody controls. Steady, loud, slightly confused, and absolutely not slowing down for pedestrians. These are hadrosaurs, built like walking loaves of muscle and attitude. They trundle through the marshy flats with that particular grace only large herbivores have. Part elephant, part parade balloon, and part slightly damp couch. Their feet slap the mud in deep, wet punctuation marks, each step a reminder that life, back then, was extremely heavy-duty. One of them lets out a honk. It's not a majestic horn blast, not a noble roar. It is, frankly, the sound of a kazoo having very strong feelings. Others answer back, forming what can only be described as a prehistoric group chat made entirely of irritated trumpeting. Someone near the back offers an off-rhythm squeak that sounds suspiciously like a kazoo solo played by a toddler. The rest, of course, ignore them. There's always one. You crouch low, tucked behind a clutch of tall reeds. The mud squishes warm between your toes. Then the smell hits you. Vegetal, damp, a hint of swamp salad, and the funky musk of animals that sweat confidence and digest shrubs for a living. They smell like they've never heard of grooming, shame, or deodorant. And, honestly, you have to respect it. Suddenly, a juvenile wanders too close. Its head is bobbing, eyes wide with curiosity, tail swinging with chaotic enthusiasm. It sniffs the air, then it sniffs you. Your entire nervous system just shuts down for maintenance. You hold perfectly still, lips pursed, trying your best to look unappetizing, uninteresting, and, hopefully, inorganic. The calf blinks slowly, as if it's trying to decide whether you are a weird plant or just a disappointing rock. Then its mother swoops in, nudging it away with a gentle yet firm shove that translates perfectly to, "Don't talk to strangers." You give a little nod, a sign of respect for her parenting instincts. She does not nod back. She doesn't need to. She weighs 3 tons and could probably launch you into orbit using only maternal irritation. The herd moves past, their legs churning the water, tails swinging like battering rams that forgot their calling. Every so often, one slaps the water with a foot, spraying droplets that glint in the light like nature's glitter. If glitter smelled slightly like cabbage. You try to keep pace at their outer flank, close enough to benefit from the "please eat someone else" group discount, but far enough not to get flattened like an unpopular pancake. You step carefully, planting your feet in their footprints whenever you can, because their footprints are like survival cheat codes in this terrain. Another honk echoes, but this one is deeper. You freeze. They freeze. The air thickens with herbivore suspicion. Somewhere in the trees, branches click. Is it a predator? Or just a tree dropping its feelings? It's hard to say. You become a statue again, certified shrub edition, until a matriarch grunts dismissively. The herd relaxes, as though they've just voted unanimously. It was probably the wind, not murder. Phew. One last giant tail passes you, brushing against ferns and sending more droplets flying your way. Then silence, except for the wet slosh of their retreat and the occasional indignant kazoo boy, still honking about something no one cares about. When the last hadrosaur disappears behind a screen of cycads, the whole world seems to exhale. The water settles. The insects resume their buzzing. Your muscles remember how to behave. You wipe the sweat from your brow. Your hand comes away streaked with mud, fear, and the faint aroma of pond salad. But you are still alive, and your dignity is mostly intact. You whisper to yourself, herbivores. Majestic, smelly, terrifying. And somehow still the friendliest option out here. Then, with a deep sigh and the cautious posture of someone who deeply respects both large herbivores and gravity, you slip back into the brush. The morale of this march? Even in prehistory, when you're crossing a crowd, the rules are simple. Stay close, stay quiet, stay small, and never, ever make eye contact with the enthusiastic kazoo kid. The evening cool slides down from the hills, and the forest begins its night shift. The calls of the day creatures fade, replaced by something lower, something that makes the distances feel vast and uncertain. Suddenly, your best friend isn't a person, but the sliver of moonlight catching on pale tree bark. The big hunters, the ones that haunt your imagination, they don't punch time cards, but twilight. Twilight is their interview hour. You learn to keep to the edges, following a trail of pale sand like a breadcrumb trail you don't dare to eat. The day exhales, its hot breath turning into a velvet hush. Light slants long and golden, transforming every frond and fern into a piece of stained glass in a cathedral built from humidity and anxiety. Shadows stretch out like sleepy cats across the ground, except some of those shadows aren't sleepy, and some of them definitely aren't cats. Some are just waiting, patiently, for you to forget how your own legs work. This is the hour where pure instinct beats intellect. Your brain, that proud, over-evolved, spreadsheet-loving organ, finally has to surrender. It yields to a deeper intuition, the one that's kept our ancestors alive for millennia. You find yourself moving differently. Slower, lower to the ground. You're not stalking, not even really sneaking. You're just trying not to interrupt the world around you. You exist like a rumor, a polite rumor, one that almost apologizes for the inconvenience of its presence. Down in the reeds, a chorus starts up. Deep, throaty croaks layer over the high-pitched whine of insects. It's a symphony of the swamp. Suddenly, something splashes in a nearby pool, a sound loud enough that your spine tries to escape right through your shoulders. You freeze, every muscle tensed, but the ripples settle and no jaws follow. You exhale. The world is noisy, yes, but it's night noisy, a completely different genre of sound. Less percussion, more drone. Fewer chirps, more hums. It's like the forest just swapped its daily playlist to one titled Ambient Threat Score, Moderate. Looking up, the sky is bruising into a deep purple. Tiny, flying things gather in glittering constellations over logs and stagnant puddles. Are they prehistoric fireflies? Gossiping amongst themselves over who will get eaten first tonight. You brush past a branch and it snaps back, tapping your arm with a wet plock. You flinch, then freeze again. It didn't hurt, not at all, but surprises after sundown. They feel personal. They feel like a warning. A breeze glides through the canopy above. Cool, almost forgiving. It carries with it the ancient scent of moss, of wet bark, and the faint smell of distant river silt. But beneath it all, there's something else. A faint, lingering musk. Predator. It's not fresh, but it's not folklore either. It's like something powerful passed through here earlier today and left a voicemail for anyone smart enough to listen. You take the hint. You step softer. One leaf crunches under your heel. The sound is a gunshot in the silence. You pause mid-motion, as if you've hit the pause button on your own existence. In the middle distance, a shape moves. It's not running, not hunting. It's just acknowledging. A silhouette lifts its head, and you can feel its gaze even from here. You hold your breath, mastering the ancient art of pretending you are not made of meat. A moment stretches, feeling like an eternity. Then, the forest decides you are a non-event. The silhouette wanders on, disappearing back into the gloom. You finally breathe again, a slow, thin stream of air, like you're sipping oxygen through a straw instead of drinking it in. From now on, you stick close to the pale patches of sand and exposed rock. They are nature's nightlights in this darkening world. The dark soil would swallow you whole. The open ground would expose you completely. You learn to live in the margins, in the soft, in-between spaces. Your feet whisper over patches of moss, damp and springy under your weight. The branches overhead knit together like the ribs of some colossal beast, enclosing a beating, starlit sky. You focus on your breath. Inhale. Exhale. The goal is simple. Don't smell interesting. Don't sound interesting. Don't be interesting. A sound pierces the air, a hoot, but it's not owl-like. It's close enough that your modern brain thinks owl, and then your far more ancient Cretaceous brain replies, "That's not an owl, and why did you assume we get owls here?" These are the reptile birds of the night. Feathered judges perched in the canopy. They witness your clumsy, wobbling posture and file it away under possible snack. Check again later. You shiver, not from the cold, but from the assessment. A soft glow begins to creep along the horizon. It's not the sunrise, not yet. It's the starlight sharpening its teeth, becoming brighter and colder as the last vestiges of daylight die. You realize you are on borrowed time. Night in this world isn't just an event. It's a verdict. And the darkness doesn't hide you. It just makes everything else more confident. You find a small ridge and tuck yourself behind it, one hand pressed against the cool stone. You can feel it holding the last warmth of the day, a final souvenir from a safer time. Crickets begin their relentless trill. The wind whispers through the needles of ancient conifers. And then you hear it, the sound of something very large, walking somewhere very far away. You pray with every fiber of your being that it stays both of those things, large and far. It's quiet now, a different kind of quiet, a danger quiet, an ancient quiet. In this profound silence, your own heartbeat sounds deafeningly loud, too loud. You place your palm over your chest as if you're politely asking it to dial it down, to not give away your position. Twilight stretches thinner and thinner, and the rules of this place get simpler and simpler. Don't glow, don't clatter, don't exist loudly. You swallow, your throat completely dry. The night has rules, and you are learning them, one terrifying breath at a time. Still moving, still quiet, still here, for now. You pick a high, narrow ridge, a spine of earth with only one clear path up, and a perfect view of whatever tomorrow might bring. Down here, a cradle of tangled roots makes for a surprisingly comfortable bed. Your blanket is nothing more than the warm evening air and the constant, civic chorus of 1,000 small lives all around you. You take a moment, cataloging your day's small victories. You didn't drown in that river crossing, you didn't eat any poison berries, and, most importantly, you didn't audition as an appetizer for anything with big teeth. You let your breath find its rhythm, matching the gentle rustle of the leaves. Somewhere far off, something large and ancient clears its throat, and just like that, the dark decides to be kind for a little while longer. This isn't camping. Camping implies gear, doesn't it? Tents, sleeping bags, a zipper you can trust with your life, marshmallows. But out here, your yeek camp is more of a moral concept. It's the simple intention to find rest in a world that is actively, constantly lobbying against that very idea. Your only shelter is the curve of tree roots, curling around you like protective fingers. Though let's be honest, if something with teeth really wants you, these roots are basically just garnish on the plate. You wedge yourself under the gnarled arch of an ancient pine. Its bark feels rough and cool against your back. The earth beneath you yields just enough to cup your hips, and a patch of soft moss cushions your ribs. A pine cone sits beside you, like a tiny, suspicious roommate. You give it a slight nod, a silent acknowledgement between two old war buddies. We both survived today. Barely, but we made it. The last amber drips of daylight finally dissolve behind the treetops, and the night widens, spreading out around you like a velvet sea of shadow and whispering leaves. The world smells of sap, rich loam, and damp bark. And maybe just a faint trace of terror. A breeze slides down from the hills, brushing the back of your neck like someone rearranging the curtain of your life with ice-cold fingers. You consciously settle your breathing. Slow, deliberate, grounded. Predators hunt motion. You offer stillness. Predators hunt sound. You offer silence. Predators hunt scent. And you offer whatever olfactory disaster your mud and leaf-caked body has become. Oh, de panicked compost. Your body hums with a deep fatigue, a full symphony of sore muscles and overstimulated nerves. Every joint seems to crackle faintly as you adjust your position, making you feel like the world's least intimidating glow stick. You tuck your knees to your chest, resting your chin lightly, and cross your arms, partly for warmth, partly for comfort, but mostly for emotional support. Your thoughts begin to wander, drifting away on the tide of sheer exhaustion. You think about beds. You think about pillows, weighted blankets, memory foam. Oh, the indescribable luxury of clean sheets. You would probably sign away half your adult dignity right now for a single cotton pillowcase. Even a slightly scratchy one would be a godsend. Your stomach mutters a half-hearted complaint. The sharp pangs of hunger from earlier have gone quiet, curling themselves into a corner to sulk. You pat your belly gently, a silent apology. Tomorrow. maybe tomorrow. It grumbles again but seems to accept your negotiation terms for now. The forest hums around you, settling into the night like a cat kneading into a deep sleep. Crickets begin their rhythmic buzzing. A soft flutter of wings announces some night flyer passing overhead. You hear the distant splash from a nearby stream. And then, far off, much too far to really panic about but close enough to acknowledge, a throaty rumble rolls across the valley. It doesn't sound urgent, not like it's hunting. It's just letting the world know who signs the leases around here. A shiver skates down your spine. You instinctively shrink further into your cradle of roots, feeling very small, very mortal, and very much like a misplaced houseplant that's been put in the wrong biome entirely. But then, something else seeps in. A quiet sense of peace. It's not safety. You would never be so presumptuous as to feel safe out here, but acceptance. This is what being alive means in this place. Staying still, staying humble, and staying, at least temporarily, unchewed. You survived. You survived one entire prehistoric day. On foot. Barefoot for some of it. With mud for fashion and crushed leaves for deodorant, your brain operating in two modes simultaneously. Survival mode and complaint mode. You close your eyes, letting the symphony of the night wash over you. Each chirp, each rustle, each whispering breath of wind. It's all part of the great, ancient lullaby of the wild. The night wraps around you like a blanket woven from vigilance and from wonder. Somewhere above the canopy, stars are burning with the fierce, sharp clarity of a world completely untouched by light pollution or city noise. They blink down at you, cold and infinite, entirely uninterested in your fragile existence. But you take comfort in their consistency. They were here long before this place became a predator's playground. They'll be here long after. You whisper to the darkness, just loud enough to feel human. Still here. The forest does not answer. It simply allows you to be. And your last thought before sleep finally claims you, not sweetly but firmly, like a much-needed reset button for fear, is this. Tomorrow you'll do it all again. Quiet feet, quiet breath, and a quiet, resilient hope. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this escape into the wild, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more adventures. It really helps us out. Stay curious, stay wild, and we'll see you in the next one.